Chapter 51. Qin, be careful, Mr. Mu Yang. Ning Guang, as the executive officer of the Fools, Madam has the power bestowed by the Ice God. I am afraid her strength is not inferior to that of an immortal. Zhongli, based on universal rationality, the executive officer of the Fools is considered a descendant of the Ice God, and indeed has strength comparable to that of an immortal. However, it is a pity, the words in the chat group are almost all input with thoughts, which is much faster than speaking. Therefore, even though they had talked a lot, the battle on Mu Yang's side had only started not long ago. Facing the lady's paw, Mu Yang stretched out his left hand, which emitted a golden light, and grabbed the lady's palm. This strength? Your strength? Damn Dadalia, he is really just a fool. The lady looked at Mu Yang's hand that was holding her tightly in disbelief. This power, the thickness of the rock, if I didn't know who the incarnation of Morax was, at this time, I would have believed that the other party was Ms. Morax. This is an opponent that I can't beat. When did such a monster appear in Liu? There are rumors that the other party is a traveler from another world. But as the executive officer of the Fools, the lady has followed the Ice God for hundreds of years and has collected a lot of information about the other 7 gods. They also know some information about Morax. If this was a person from another world, how could Morax teach him his own methods? Obviously, the so-called traveler from another world was a cover, and the other person's identity was probably Morax's disciple. It's an immortal they don't know. The lady was in a trance. If Mu Yang was really an immortal, then he would not be a scumbag. As for the thing about Keqing and Ning Guang, I'm afraid it's all a lie. Madam, I believe the immortals in Liu are quite reliable. That idiot Dadalia was deceived. Now that you've taken action against me, it seems that for the sake of the Ice God and the fact that you protected Mondstadt when you participated in the Battle of Camria in Barbados, I don't intend to kill you, but punishment is inevitable. Just be obedient and make a stone statue here for 3 days. Don't struggle. It took more than 3 days of struggle. You'll be dead next time. As Mu Yang finished speaking, a terrifying golden energy burst out from his body. Under everyone's disbelieving gaze, the lady's body gradually turned into a rock, but in her heart, there was a weak flame, wrapped in a light blue ice element and flickering. Mu Yang glanced at the ice element thoughtfully. What is this flame? Mu Yang knows that it is probably the life flame of Rosalind as the Witch of Fire, and the ice element that has been guarding Rosalind from beginning to end is probably the power of the Ice God. When Mu Yang was preparing to petrify Rosalind, this power had resisted, but he should have felt that Rosalind's life was not threatened, and under special factors such as the seal could be lifted in just 3 days, this power the energy did not put up much resistance. It's quite interesting. Mu Yang chuckled lightly, and then looked at the fools not far away. Those fools subconsciously took a step back and looked at Mu Yang with fear, as if they were looking at some heinous villain. 3 She will naturally recover in a few days, so you can take good care of her here. After speaking, he waved to Barbara on the side and said, Barbara, let's go. Ah! Barbara looked blankly at the petrified lady, then at Mu Yang who was about to leave, and quickly followed. Along the way, no one, neither the fools nor the West Wind Knights, dared to stop Mu Yang. Keqing, I'm so envious. The Emperor's sealing technique is really useful. It would be great if I could also learn it. Ning Guang, immortal art is not something that can be learned just by learning it. The requirements for learning are too high. Moreover, even if you learn immortal art, you will not be able to do what Mu Yang is like. Wendy, it looks really powerful. Now I even suspect that Mu Yang is actually the Rock King of Liu. At Zhongli, are you right? Zhongli, based on universal rationality, Mu Yang's sealing skills are indeed 30% as good as the Rock King Emperor. Grandma Ping, it really feels familiar, but Mu Yang's sealing technique relies more on its own powerful elemental power to suppress the opponent. In terms of sealing technique, it still needs some experience. Mu Yang, there is no way. I have just learned it not long ago, and it is also the first time to seal someone. Moreover, it is difficult for me to guarantee that if the sealing time is too long, problems may occur. Moreover, that force automatically receded after realizing that I would not harm the lady, otherwise it would still be a bit tricky. Well, I'm not sure how to seal her without destroying Mondstadt or killing her. Qin, Mu Yang, can you tell me why you said before that the lady protected Mondstadt? I'm sorry, this matter is very important to me. Mu Yang, the Witch of Fire, she saved Mondstadt, but the Mondstadt people betrayed her. Qin, is that so? Thank you. Wendy, I didn't expect that you didn't kill her. Zhongli, for someone as proud as Madam, being petrified like this and being watched by so many people is even more uncomfortable than killing her. Mu Yang, indeed, this is social death. She can be embarrassed in other countries, but to be embarrassed in Mondstadt, this is humiliation. Death is sometimes a very simple thing. Facing such things calmly is more important than death. Difficulty. Barbara followed Mu Yang and said in shock, Mr. Mu Yang, I didn't expect you to be such a powerful being. Actually, it's not bad. Mu Yang waved his hand, longing is the emotion farthest from understanding. Whether it's for me or Qin, never use this attitude. Is that so? I understand, Mr. Mu Yang. Barbara was stunned for a moment when she heard this, and then smiled. On the other hand, Qin is not in much mood to clear monsters and gain points at this time. At this time, Dailuk did not choose to rush for quick success, and his mood was also extremely complicated. Dailuk was very familiar with the lady's strength. He had fought with her before. Although he successfully retreated and the two sides fought back and forth, Dailuk could feel that the other party should still be hiding a terrifying energy that has not yet exploded. I think that should be the power of the Flame Witch. But an existence like the lady was easily sealed by Mu Yang without even struggling. So how powerful are gods? Mr. Zhongli said before that Mu Yang only has 30% of Morix's attainments. Although this is only in the sealing technique, I think Morix should be stronger than Mu Yang, right? After all, he is the strongest among the 7 gods. Chapter 52. And my enemy, the Doctor, is said to have demon-level strength. When will he have the power to take revenge? However, when it comes to revenge, Dailuk is not willing to let others do it for him. Otherwise, Dailuk would definitely not mind using the entire Dawn Winery to put a bounty on the Doctor's life. Mr. Wendy, is it right for Mondstadt to be like this? After a long silence, Qin raised her head and asked Wendy. Are you saying you have forgotten about the hero? Wendy was stunned and asked with a wry smile. Yes, neither the Guardians of the Four Winds nor the Witch of Fire have received the treatment they deserve. They have protected Mondstadt, but the people of Mondstadt have forgotten them and betrayed them. Qin looked at Wen with burning eyes. That's why I became a bard. I hope everyone will not forget history. Wendy spread her hands and said, the history of Lawrence is still remembered today, and Mond has always been wary of the next Lawrence. Appear. But he forgot a lot of his own history. This is Mond's fault. Qin pursed her lips. She was just a little confused and wanted to do something for these Mondstadt heroes. Rosalind, the Witch of Fire, once saved Mondstadt, but was betrayed by Mondstadt. Perhaps her joining the Fools now has something to do with Mondstadt's betrayal? If it were the vast majority of people, I'm afraid they would be disappointed in Mondstadt at that time, right? Also, Dailuk Senpai also left the Knights of the Westwind because he could not give his father a fair reputation, right? Lord Barbatos, I want to face history squarely. When I go back, I plan to investigate the mistakes of the Knights of the Westwind and expose all of them. Knights of the Westwind who don't even dare to face their mistakes can't continue to lead Mondstadt. Qin took a deep breath, looked at Wendy expectantly and said, besides, I also plan to write all those stories into a book. Have you ever thought that this might make you a traitor in the minds of countless people? After all, the reputation of the Knights of the Westwind is inseparable from many families. At this time, Dailuk reminded, this guy will not stand up to clear your name. His original withdrawal from the Knights of the Westwind was not only due to his father's relationship, but also because of pressure from other forces. At that time, he was more likely than Qin to become the next leader of the Knights of the Westwind, but his personality was not like Qin's. After Qin, who was equally excellent and easy to control, appeared, many people hoped that Qin could grow up as soon as possible and compete with themselves. At that time, they even squeezed themselves out. Dailuk knew that this matter had nothing to do with Qin or Qin's family, and they were even very resistant to such behavior. This is why Dailuk still has a good feeling for Qin even if he knows the truth. He is also one of the few people within the Knights of the Westwind who can be recognized by Dailuk. Of course, what Dailuk cared about the most was actually Yola, that equally excellent woman who had always been bound by the so-called family. She had always worked hard without complaint, but her reputation was not much better. To be honest, even Dailuk felt it was unfair. The Lawrence family was indeed notorious in history. But the Lawrence family members who remain now are actually members who made no mistakes in the past, and some of them even resisted the Lawrence family in the past. To be able to question the power in such a family, in Dai Luk's opinion, is even more valuable, but their descendants are not living a very good life. After all, Mondstadt still has too many stubborn ailments. I understand, but aren't those people whose families can speak to follow the group on the long march? Qin asked with a chuckle. Dai Luk was silent when he heard this. The Knights of the Westwind are indeed weak now, but it is also the time when they can be most united. It seems like this is really possible. As long as the operation is better, it can even be used as a means to belittle other knights, even eliminate Falga's influence and stabilize Qin's status. Of course, Dai Luk also knew that Qin would not be able to do this, at least not to Falga. That man probably doesn't care about his position as the grand leader of the Knights of the West Wind. After he was still a Knight of the West Wind, Falga trained him. After he quit the Knights of the West Wind, Falga tried his best to train Qin. He had long wanted to retire. There's no way Qin doesn't know this. But this is undoubtedly a good opportunity. Then Lord Barbatos, what should I do? Qin looked at Wendy and asked, I think the truth is more important than the so-called credibility of the knights. If you don't even dare to face the truth, it goes against Wendy's. Lady Nissa's original intention in founding the Knights of the West Wind. Seeing Qin like this, Wendy also smiled heartily. He took out his piano, well, musical instrument, and said while playing, you are very much like her. I look forward to your future. I hope that one day, I can too tell your story in front of future generations. A smile appeared on Qin's lips. Lady Vanessa? Lord Barbatos, don't worry, I will definitely lead Mon to a better place. When Wendy finished her song, Qin Cai said, well Wendy, let's continue the action. We don't have much time left. Mu Yang's live broadcast continued, but he did not ask Qin and Dai Luk about their locations. Mu Yang could find the locations of the chat group members at any time if he wanted. However, the positioning function seems to be very good. He silently added a patch to the chat group so that group members can share their location. In this way, if there is any need for help in the future, members can help each other. Mu Yang was walking outside Mondstadt with Barbara, mainly heading towards the location of Xingluo Lake. With him guarding Barbara, he did not encounter many dangers along the way, but Mu Yang didn't show too much amazing combat power. I didn't expect that the outside of Mondstadt would turn out like this. Barbara, who saw countless monsters along the way, said sadly, it would be great if Lord Barbatos were here. With his unparalleled power, he will definitely. These monsters can be destroyed in an instant. Chapter 53. Barbara, do you think the people of Mondstadt will resent the Wind God because he did not appear to protect them and eliminate the monsters? Mu Yang asked, looking at the big tree in the wind. No, I cannot. Barbatos has established for us a kingdom where no one will be king. Over the years, Lord Barbatos has rarely appeared, and almost every time he appears, he has solved unsolvable difficulties for us. He doesn't ask us to do anything, but as the people of Mondstadt, how can we resent Lord Barbatos because Lord Barbatos didn't show up at this time? Moreover, I believe that Lord Barbatos must have been paying attention to us. When the last resort comes, Lord Barbatos will protect us. If he really does not show up, then something must have happened to Lord Barbatos. Speaking of this, Barbara looked at Mu Yang worriedly. Mu Yang, do you think something happened to Lord Barbatos? Otherwise, Mondstadt's earth veins would not be so disordered. My sister told me before that the wind demon dragon is the dragon of the east wind. Perhaps it was precisely because something happened to Lord Barbatos that the dragon of the east wind became furious. Mu Yang looked up at the sky silently after hearing this. He felt that what Barbara said made sense. For a moment, he didn't know how to refute Barbara's remarks. Wendy. Qin. Dai Luk. Ning Guang, don't worry, you three. This is just Barbara's guess. You have to believe that nothing happened to Feng Shen. Zhongli, based on common sense, that guy is indeed not prone to getting into trouble. Mu Yang, at this time, I don't know how to explain to Barbara. If I didn't know the truth, I would probably believe Barbara's words. Sure enough, as a perfect believer, he will take the initiative to find reasons for his own gods. Keqing, I don't agree with the laxity of Mondstadt people. The same job requires more than 3 times the time of Mondstadt people than us Liao people. But I can understand the behavior of Feng Shen. There are many problems in a country ruled by humans, but it seems that everything is within his control. But the price paid during this period may be a bit high. Although I really don't want to admit it, if it were the emperor who allowed us to enter the rule of man, I am afraid that 100 years later, there would be existences like the Lawrence family. Ningguang, Keqing, you have grown up. Keqing, hey, I'm just a little immature. I thought all the 7 stars love Liu as much as I do. Mu Yang, actually, there is no need to beat the Lawrence family to death repeatedly. If you are interested, you can investigate Dao wife's affairs and determine whether those families who are in charge of deceiving the superiors and those of the Tianling executives are hiding the truth from the superiors and bullying the subordinates. Know the true situation of Dao's wife. Needless to say, the Sumi order directly imprisoned the grass god. Keqing, is it really possible to imprison a god? Even a weak god is still a god, right? Mu Yang, it's just being Pua. When a god is just born and doesn't understand anything, people around you say you are not a qualified god and need to learn. As a gentle god, you will gradually doubt yourself. Keqing, the people of Sumi are really hateful. But is it really right for a god to be humiliated like this? Mu Yang. Ningguang. Grandma Ping, looking at the words in the chat group, Mu Yang also chuckled. Of course, everyone knows that Keqing is actually an emperor's chef. It's just that she thought she hid it well. But everyone knows that even at this time, they have begun to imagine Keqing's shame and anger at this time. Mu Yang said that he was very impressed. Who asked Keqing to drag him to work last night and not give him any benefits? However, at this time, he still needed to face Barbara's inquiry. After pondering for a moment, he replied, according to my understanding of this world, 500 years ago, in addition to the outbreak of disasters, in fact, apart from the grass god, the 7 gods besides, they are all involved in a war. You can imagine the scale of a war that requires the participation of gods, and the level of opponents they encounter. After returning, Feng Shen needed Teyvat to fight against the demon dragon Dulan. I think he was already very weak at that time, and he is probably still sleeping now, right? Is that so? I don't know how Lord Barbatos is doing. Barbara breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this, and her eyes were full of worry. Maybe he is sleeping somewhere, or maybe he has woken up and transformed into a drunkard, watching Mond in silence and protecting Mond in his own way. Mu Yang comforted with a light smile. Barbara looked at Mu Yang slightly angrily after hearing this. Mr. Mu Yang, how could Lord Barbatos become an alcoholic? If the believers hear you slander Lord Barbatos, they will definitely criticize you verbally. Mu Yang's eyes became deeper. Barbara, I told you before, your eyes can deceive you. I remember the inventor of Mond wine was Barbatos. What did he do creating wine if he didn't like wine? Barbara nodded thoughtfully, as if this was indeed the case. There is a legend that wine was invented by Lord Barbatos. As a god who likes drinking, there seems to be no problem, right? Could it be that the way they used to worship Lord Barbatos was wrong? Why don't you try using dandelion wine next time you serve Lord Barbatos? The two of them walked all the way towards Xingluo Lake. Suddenly, Mu Yang felt a wave of pure wind element aura, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. That guy was indeed here. Next to the breath of wind element, there is an aura that is very kind and familiar to Mu Yang. Come to think of it, this is Paimon. Sure enough, this guy Paimon comes from Sky Island, and may be related to those 4 shadows. It's just that now that Fans is gone, he has become the new Tian Li, inheriting almost everything from Fans, and feeling close to Paimon, which seems normal. I'm looking forward to it more and more. Emergency food. By the Starfall Lake, Paimon looked in the direction of Mondstadt for some reason, which also aroused Ying's doubts. Paimon, what's wrong? I was just in a daze for a while. Paimon scratched his head guiltily and randomly changed the subject. Traveler, you have obtained the power of wind element, why don't we get familiar with this power? Chapter 54. She has golden hair and a girlish figure, exuding 2 very special temperaments of innocence and arrogance, which are perfectly integrated in the girl's body. She clenched her right fist, and a very pure wind element gathered in her hand. Although this wind element was very weak, Ying felt that she could slowly strengthen this wind element. By then, I should be able to have some self-protection power, right? Although it's not as powerful as the power I once used, it's still pretty good. Just thinking about what she had experienced along the way, Ying couldn't help but complain to Paimon, Paimon, are there really other people in this world? Why are all the monsters I see along the way? There was no one in the villages we passed before. Could this be some kind of original demon world? Or has this world been destroyed and taken over by monsters? Paimon spread his hands and said helplessly, I don't know about this either. This is Mondstadt's territory. Although there are some monsters usually, they will be wiped out by the Knights of the Westwind and the adventurers of the Adventurers Association. But Paimon doesn't know the current situation here. At least the last time Paim came to Mondstadt was not like this. Ying looked at the flying elf in diapers next to her with some suspicion. She thought it was a special human from Teyvat before, but now, Ying was very suspicious that the other person seemed to be some special monster that could talk. Fortunately, Ying didn't feel the slightest malice from Paimon, but instead became friendly with him for no reason. She didn't know why, but she still chose to bring emergency food with this self-proclaimed guide. Maybe by traveling with the other person, you can find a lot of truth. How long ago was the last time you came to Mondstadt? Ying glanced at Paimon and continued to complain. Well, Paimon also forgot about this. Paimon poked his finger guiltily. How could she still remember this? But as Paimon said, she now also needs to adapt to the abilities she acquired first. Looking at the surrounding lakes and the large Zhongli lake, come on, I still have to swim there, but my clothes are really good. They will not get wet or damaged when encountering water. They are really good. She made a small wind ball in her hand. In fact, the wind element is quite easy to control. After leaving Zhongli Lake, Ying easily found a small gathering place for Cahokia people. There were about a dozen Cahokia people inside. This number was not a big problem for Ying. Even without the wind element, Ying can defeat them with her strong body and excellent swordsmanship. After waking up, Ying also discovered that he was not completely destitute now. Although all the power has disappeared, the physical body seems to be still there. If it is really subjected to a strong defense, it seems that it can be withstood. Mu Yang, after all, it is a physical body that has been beaten by countless demon gods, but it will not be injured. You hide here, I'll come as soon as I can. After giving Paimon a warning, Ying carried a bladeless sword and charged into the Cahokia camp. She was as fast as a cheetah. Before the Cahokia people could react, she was in front of a Cahokia shooter, and her long sword slashed across its neck. Then the figure flashed again and came to the side of a Cahokia shaman. He quickly gathered wind elements in his hands, trying to condense this wind element into a wind ball to deal with Cahokia shaman. But something horrified Ying happened. When she used the wind element, a powerful wind element poured into her body, and then gathered uncontrollably on the wind ball in her hand. The wind ball that was originally only the size of a fist grew rapidly. In just the blink of an eye, it became a huge wind ball with a diameter of about 1 meter. The Cahokia shaman who was very close at hand was instantly wiped out. At this time, the Cahokia people in the Cahokia camp were also affected by the wind ball and were constantly attracted. What's going on? Ying also looked confused at this time. Where did that powerful wind element come from? Moreover, why is my body out of control? What to do now? I can't control the wind ball in my hand, what should I do? What on earth is going on? Sure enough, people cannot set up flags randomly. It's going to explode. Just as Ying was thinking this, an even larger wind element poured into her body, and then the wind ball expanded rapidly, growing into a wind ball about 5 meters in diameter. At this moment, everything in the entire Cahokia camp was attracted and torn into pieces by the wind blade in an instant. At this time, even Paimon in the distance was dumbfounded when he saw this scene. Is the traveler so powerful? This is not what I expected. She scratched her head and found that she was not very smart and could not think of a reason at all. But what neither Paimon nor Ying knew was that this scene was seen by Mu Yang and Barbara. What a terrifying wind elemental power, what a pure wind, maybe even stronger than my sister. The opponent did not have the Eye of God, but could use the wind element, and appeared when Mondstadt needed help. Lord Barbatos, is that you? Barbara looked at Ying in the distance and couldn't help but exclaimed. The corner of Mu Yang's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Good guy, Ying has become a god of wind? Chin, ahem, I'm sorry, I will teach Barbara well later and let her have more common sense. Wendy, hey, if it were me, I would also wonder if the other party belongs to Feng Shen. Look, I've never heard that the god of wind is a woman. But, could this guy be the wind that changes the timing? If it is this force, we can expect something. Mu Yang, having said that, I am somewhat interested in the elf on the side. As a traveler, I don't have such a travel partner. It's a bit unfair. Zhongli, no, actually you have it, but you may have forgotten it. After Zhongli's reminder, Mu Yang also silently looked at the location of Sky Island, a little speechless. Good guy, Ying's flying pet is Paimon. Is my flying pet the keeper of heavenly principles? Ying will join the group, but not now. After all, such a cute and silly Ying will certainly have to fight. Chapter 55. Mu Yang has no plans to awaken the maintainer of heavenly principles yet. As a new Tianli and an existence that can purify the power of the abyss, Mu Yang believes that the maintainers of Tianli are definitely willing to cooperate with him. It is not difficult to conquer the maintainers of Tianli. But his current strength is still insufficient. Although he has reached the level of the 7 gods, Mu Yang estimates that it should not be much different from Barbados in his heyday. But there is still a huge difference between him and the maintainer of heavenly principles. Even Morix is no match for the maintainer of heavenly principles, let alone himself now. Mu Yang feels that he still needs to continue to grow in the future, at least to have the strength comparable to the maintainer of Tianli, and then go to her. Moreover, if you want to awaken the maintainer of heavenly law, you must pay a certain price, and Mu Yang is not ready now. Of course, the most important thing is that it would be too scary to go out for a walk with a keeper of heavenly principles, like Paimon. Mu Yang felt that the Winter Kingdom and the Abyss cult were going to cause trouble directly, and he wanted to kill himself. However, Ying seems to be a good tool man too. She has a certain ability to purify the filth of the Abyss. If she can be given a chat group, why not just take off? When it comes to beating workers in Teyvat, is there anyone better than Ying? As long as an exclamation point or question mark appears on your head, there will be a blonde idiot with her flying pet traveling thousands of miles to solve your problems. This is not a lie. Mu Yang still has full trust in Ying Mei, and she can definitely become a qualified wage earner. But now is not a good time to bring Ying into the group. If Ying leaks the news when she meets Sora, everyone in the group will be in danger. Now Sora is stunned. In order to take revenge, he has fallen into the abyss. Even though he himself has strong resistance to the power of the abyss, this impact is still inevitable. Moreover, in the entire Teyvat, the only thing Sora cares about is Ying. Apart from Ying, he doesn't care about anyone. This is very dangerous. However, this method of teasing Ying is indeed quite interesting. Seeing that the entire Kaihokyu camp was reduced to ruins, the wind ball in Ying's hand also quickly shrank and then disappeared. Hoo, finally disappeared. Upon seeing this, Paimon quickly flew to Ying's side, patted his small chest and said softly, "But traveler, you are so awesome. They actually directly wiped out all these Kaihokyu people." "No, that's not my power." Ying shook his head slightly, and then looked at Mu Yang and Barbara not far away. Barbara's voice was not quiet before, and Ying also noticed it. The other party seemed to be saying what kind of Barbados he was. "What is this? Hello, are you Lord Barbados?" When Barbara saw the wind ball disappear, she hurriedly came to Ying and asked. "Barbados, this seems to be the name of Mondstadt's wind god." Paimon explained at the side. However, Ying is a traveler, not a wind god, although she is also very powerful. "I am a traveler's best friend, Paimon." Speaking of the latter part, Paimon also put his hands on his hips, showing a proud expression. Mu Yang, Barbara, and everyone in the chat group couldn't help laughing when they saw this scene. "I'm not the god of wind." Ying sighed lightly and explained accordingly. "It's time to die, and I've spoken." "Sigma. Is that so?" Barbara looked a little sad. "Sorry to bother you. Are you looking for the god of wind?" Ying's eyes flickered slightly and she asked Barbara. "I am Barbara, the priest of the West Wind Church, and this is Mu Yang, a traveler from another world." Barbara glanced at the screen apologetically, and explained, "We are outside this time, I want to see the situation outside Mondstadt." "Eh? Are you also a traveler from another world?" Before Ying could speak, Paimon found the point directly and looked at Mu Yang in disbelief and asked. For some reason, she felt a very familiar and close aura on Mu Yang's body, but Paimon was very sure that she had never seen him before. "Well, I am indeed from another world. I am now serving as a consultant to Tianquan Star in Liu." Mu Yang nodded slightly but did not deny it. "Have you ever seen a white-haired god since you came to this world?" "That guy took my brother away." Ying quickly asked Mu Yang. "A white-haired god? Sorry, I have never seen a white-haired god." Mu Yang said that he had indeed never seen the maintainer of heavenly principles, and he was still asleep. Keqing, so, I seem to have seen a white-haired god. Ning Guang, what a coincidence, I've seen it too. Wendy, hey, +1. Dai look, is there anything fishy about this? Qin, Mr. Mu Yang wouldn't kidnap the other party's brother for no reason, right? Mu Yang, wait a minute, Qin, what nonsense are you talking about? How can I catch the other person's brother? It's been less than 2 months since I came to Teyvat. Besides, when did my hair turn grey? Don't slander me. I know, don't talk nonsense. Zhongli, based on universal rationality, Mu Yang does not have the strength to capture the traveler's brother. Mu Yang, pfft, although what I said is true, it's so shocking. Dai look, is this traveler's brother so powerful? Isn't he also at the level of the 7 gods? Zhongli, it's hard to say in terms of strength, but it's true that the current Mu Yang cannot defeat him alone. Mu Yang, I am so unjust. Besides, don't think of someone else's brother as a good person. Maybe this person is a good person, but his brother is not necessarily a good person. Dai look, that makes sense, Kaya is not a good person. Mu Yang also looked helpless at this time, so in fact, everyone knows the identity of his group leader, but they don't say it, right? Forget it, this thing has little impact. Keqing, just wait. When I get back, I will let you know that I am not someone to be trifled with. Is that so? Ying nodded with some disappointment, and then reminded Mu Yang, the gods in this world don't seem to welcome outsiders. You need to be careful. My brother was taken away by a strange god. And because of this, I lost my power. Chapter 56. Ying is quite a good person. She knows that Mu Yang comes from another world like herself and has not encountered any poisonous hands, so she reminds Mu Yang that of course, she also has her own little thoughts. If one day, she has to face that unknown god again, then Mu Yang should be able to become her comrade in arms. Of course, before that, she still needed to observe Mu Yang for a while. Thanks for the reminder, I will pay attention to it later. Mu Yang nodded slightly to Ying. Have you seen other gods since you came to this world? Ying asked Mu Yang expectantly. I know a little bit about it. I heard that the god of wind is a drunkard, the god of rock is a streetwalker, the god of thunder is a local girl, the god of grass is a melon, and the god of water is a silly roe deer. As for the god of ice and god of fire, I'm not very sure. Clear it. Mu Yang chuckled and smiled. Do you think I will believe it? Ying Man looked at Mu Yang speechlessly. That is a god. No matter how you look at it, these adjectives are not used to describe gods. Wendy, the old man is a street kid, the Thor is a local girl. Mu Yang, you are very brave. You are not afraid of Beelzebul coming to chop you. Keqing, how is it possible? How could the emperor be a street kid? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Zhongli, perhaps Emperor Yanwang wants to understand the current situation in Liu. Only by deeply understanding the lives of the people can we understand their living conditions. Ganyu, yes, Emperor Yanwang must think so. Unfortunately, Ganyu was a little confused after knowing that Zhongli was the Emperor of the Rock King. He could only think that the Emperor must have some deep intention to paralyze him. It's okay now, the Emperor has explained, everything has been explained. As expected of the King of Rocks, he understands the masses. It was only the answers from Ganyu and Zhongli that made Ning Guang, an old fox, discover Hua Dian. Street liar, and the most famous street liazi in Liu, isn't that Zhongli? Thinking of this possibility, Ning Guang couldn't help but take a breath of air. Mu Yang, ahem, whether you believe it or not, I believe it anyway. I just heard about it. Mu Yang spread his hands. As for what these gods look like, you need to see them in person to know what kind of gods they are. Barbara quickly said, however, I believe Lord Barbados may just like to drink, but he is definitely not a drunkard. He is an extremely great god. Ying nodded thoughtfully. Barbara must be a fanatical believer, right? Ordinary believers absolutely cannot believe it. If possible, it would be better if you don't have contact with those gods. After thinking about it, Ying also suggested to Mu Yang. She also couldn't figure out why the white-haired god stopped them from leaving. I have been sleeping the whole time and have done nothing in this world. Could it be that my brother caused trouble? Or is it that the gods of this world reject outsiders? If they want to find me, there is nothing I can do. Mu Yang spread his hands, but I am very curious about these gods. Then Mu Yang looked at Paimon and said, speaking of which, this little guy seems quite interesting. Hey, what do you mean, little one? I am Paimon. I am the traveler's guide and companion. Paimon stomped his feet in the air dissatisfied and protested to Mu Yang. Okay, you are Paimon. Mu Yang stepped forward, pinched Paimon's cheek and said fondly. Just when Paimon became more and more dissatisfied, Mu Yang took the lead to let go of Paimon's face, took out a cake, placed it in front of Paimon and said softly, you're welcome, eat it. Wow! Paimon was not polite to Mu Yang. He grabbed the cake with both hands and ate it happily, showing a happy look. What are your plans next? Mu Yang then asked Ying again. We plan to go to Mondstadt City, there may be information about Feng Shen there. After finding the wind god, you may be able to find out the information about the white-haired god and the whereabouts of brother Ying. Paimon finished the cake in 3 strokes, 5 divided by 2, and then revealed their plan without hesitation. Mu Yang and Barbara are good people. So tell them no problem. Ying glanced at Paimon slightly suspiciously, but nodded slightly. Is this so? Looking for the whereabouts of the god of wind, but Lord Barbatos has not appeared for 500 years. Barbara said helplessly, even when his relatives went crazy, Lord Barbatos did not appear. 500 years? Dependence? Ying asked quickly. She felt that this matter was very important and might be of great help to her. As a dependent, it's equivalent to the relationship between you and Paimon. Paimon is your dependent. Now the wind god's subordinate Teyvat is going crazy and has even begun to attack Mondstadt. If you can help Mondstadt solve this problem, I think Mondstadt will be grateful to you. Moreover, Teyvat, as a dependent, should also know the information about the wind god. Mu Yang said pointedly. Paimon was shocked when he heard Mu Yang's words, you want us to fight the dragon? You can't do it no matter how you think about it, right? But didn't Traveler show extremely strong strength before? I think even if it's not as good as the 7 gods, it shouldn't be weaker than Varen, right? Mu Yang pointed at Ying and said. Ying said dumbfounded, that's not my strength at all. It was a pure wind element that poured into my body that made it possible. Barbara heard this and quickly asked, pure wind element? Could it be Lord Barbatos? Could it be that he has noticed you? Ying frowned, obviously thinking about this matter. There is something strange about this matter. She is not a fool, she is even a little smart. Mu Yang is very special, and his strength should not be weak. According to intuition, his strength may not even be much weaker than that of himself in his heyday. But the other party didn't seem to have any ill intentions toward him. Instead, he was full of appreciation and seemed to be very familiar with him. Have they known each other before? As for Barbara, it's easy to understand. She is a chef of the god of wind. As long as she doesn't speak ill of the god of wind, there will be no conflict between the 2 parties. You can try to get along with them. The only doubt is whether he wants to face the dragon. This is very dangerous. If only she had rushed up and killed them indiscriminately in her heyday. But now her strength is still very weak. However, Mu Yang seems to be guiding himself to deal with the giant dragon, and the other party doesn't seem to want to harm him. Does the other party know any secrets? Forget it, just follow up and take a look. If it really doesn't work, you can just run away. D. Chapter 57. Anyway, your goal is to find the god of wind, isn't it? If you want Mon to help you find your brother, then letting them owe you a favor is also a way. After thinking about it, Mu Yang also explained it in front of Barbara. This seems to make sense. Paimon nodded in approval after hearing this. If travelers can really deal with the dragon, that is indeed a good idea. At this time, Barbara also said with great approval, if you can help Captain Qin solve the problem of Dongfeng dragon, she will definitely help you find your brother. Ying also sighed silently when she heard this. She understood all this, but she just didn't know how strong the dragons in this world were. However, she still agreed. On the one hand, she also knew that what Mu Yang said made sense. She also wanted to seize this opportunity. What if the dragon was easy to deal with? Even if you can't beat him, you can just run away. On the other hand, Ying said that no one can refuse a beautiful girl like Barbara. After seeing Ying decide to follow them to Mondstadt, Mu Yang also directly turned off the live broadcast. Keqing, why is the live broadcast closed? Are you back to Mondstadt? I still want to see the lady's stone statue. Ningguang, it's a pity that the pictures of the chat group cannot be printed, otherwise I would have to let the entire Liu see the lady's stone statue. The lady said before that Mu Yang is the pretty girl she raised, and Ningguang is thinking about her. She Ningguang is super vindictive. Wendy, hey, do you want it? I can go back and take a picture, and then I'll send it to Liu. How many molas are you talking about? Liu, how about 1 million molas? Wendy, deal, it will be delivered tomorrow. I'm going to borrow the camera right now. Looking at the chat content in the chat group, Mu Yang was also speechless for a while. It seemed that the lady was going to be embarrassed. However, Ningguang seems to be more vindictive than expected. Has he ever offended Ningguang before? There should be none. Those things were also guessed by Dadalia himself and have nothing to do with Mu Yang. Thinking of this, Mu Yang also breathed a sigh of relief and felt silent for Dadalia. Ai, don't open the door, there are all Ningguang people outside. On the way back, Barbara kept telling her about Mondstadt's situation, which made her feel entangled in her heart. It seems that the situation in Mondstadt is not very good now, the people are displaced, the Knights of the Westwind have no way to solve the problem, and the God of Wind has disappeared. Mondstadt now needs a hero to solve this problem. At this time, Ying didn't mind helping. She was essentially a kind person, but she didn't know if she could solve the problem. Later, she also learned some about the power distribution system of this world from Mu Yang, Barbara, and Paimon, which also allowed her to better understand the world. But when Ying entered Mondstadt, she was a little dumbfounded. Not far from the city gate, there was a figure, and there were a large number of special personnel guarding her. This portrait, Ying quickly saw, seemed to be a real person, just petrified. And those who guard the portraits seem to be very capable, and their quality may even be higher than that of the Knights of the Westwind guarding the door. However, it was not bad to follow a well-connected person like Barbara. At least when entering Mondstadt, he came in without being questioned. What's going on? Ying asked Mu Yang curiously. She could clearly feel that the eyes of these people looking at Mu Yang were full of fear. She attacked me in a sneak attack before, was defeated by me, and sealed here. She will be back to her original state in a few days. Mu Yang waved his hand and said lightly. In fact, the afternoon chat group was also analyzing why the lady provoked Mu Yang for no reason. At first, they all suspected that this was a way of provoking Mu Yang, thereby provoking Ningguang. After all, Mu Yang is a Ningguang person on the surface. But later Wendy gave another possibility, that is, Ms. Rosalind. The character at that time was very similar to the current Barbara, and they were both the girls with the best singing in Mondstadt. Perhaps the current lady is full of resentment towards Mond, but she still has some emotions towards a girl like Barbara. After seeing that the scumbag Mu Yang and her intelligence had such a good relationship with Barbara, the lady came directly to trouble Mu Yang. After receiving this analysis, Mu Yang didn't know how to complain. He also knew that this guess was probably quite accurate. After all, the information about his scumbag was clearly revealed by the lady on purpose. She was not telling it to herself, but to Barbara. Mu Yang didn't even know what to say to the lady. Also in a complicated mood is Qin, Barbara's sister. She also doesn't know whether to thank the lady or express dissatisfaction with the lady. However, the lady still attacked him. Let her die for a while first. Tisk, 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 with so many people watching, I don't know if the lady will self-destruct and burn Mondstadt after she recovers. Is that so? It seems I won't be able to offend you anymore. After sizing up the lady, Paimon hid behind Ying and said fearfully. Ying's looked at the lady's portrait thoughtfully, what a terrifying elemental power, but it was completely different from the way he had sealed himself in the first place. However, I shouldn't be able to escape such a sealing technique now. Looking at this method of sealing, it is the application of elemental power, and it is most likely a method used on the continent of Teyvat. It seems that I will need to be more careful in this world in the future. By the way, travelers, you don't have a residence in Mondstadt, right? At this time, Barbara also asked the screen. Indeed, not really, but there are so many people in Mondstadt. It might not be easy for us to find a hotel. Paimon said in confusion as he looked at the slightly crowded streets. Could it be that after arriving in Mondstadt, he and the travelers would continue to sleep in the wild? How about you come to live in my house? My sister is currently stationed at the headquarters of the Knights of the West Wind. As for me, I also live in the Church of the West Wind. Now Mu Yang lives at home. If travelers and Paimon are included, my sister I won't refuse either. Barbara asked with a smile. Along the way, she and Ying also chatted a lot and regarded each other as their friends. Moreover, the other party is a very powerful person, and she wants to introduce Ying to her sister. Maybe the other party can solve the sister's dilemma, so it's a win-win situation. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you. Chapter 58. Ying glanced at Mu Yang beside him and found that Mu Yang didn't care. He hesitated and asked, would this trouble you too much? Barbara waved her hands repeatedly and said, it's okay, sister is a very kind person, and along the way, you also helped Mond eliminate a lot of monsters. Sister will definitely be grateful to you. Hearing Barbara's words, Ying also looked at Mu Yang with some suspicion. She could conclude that Mu Yang was stronger than herself, even far superior to her current self. But why didn't he help Mondstadt to deal with these monsters? It seems that Mu Yang has a good relationship with the people of Mondstadt. But Mu Yang didn't explain these things, and it was hard for him to ask questions. Is that so? Thank you very much, but I still hope to meet Captain Qin. Ying said directly without hesitation. I don't know if sister is in the office now, but I can take you over to have a look. Barbara nodded and agreed. However, Mu Yang looked at the sky with some curiosity, and Teyvat did not seem to appear. By the way, it seems that 12 did not appear in the plot where Wendy appeases Teyvat. It seems everything has changed. Then it's up to you, Barbara. After getting along for a long time, Ying also discovered that Barbara is a very kind person. As long as she doesn't speak ill of Feng Shen, the two parties can still get along quite happily, and they became friends. You're welcome. This is what we should do. Barbara waved her hands quickly and said. When Mu Yang and Barbara brought Ying and Paimon to the headquarters of the Knights of the West Wind, Qin had already returned to the office to work. Seeing the arrival of several people, Qin also directly performed a knight's salute. May the god of wind protect you, welcome to Mondstadt, travelers from afar. As for Ying and Paimon, Qin had met them in the chat group before. It was precisely because they wanted to meet the two of them that Qin and the others came back early. Hello, Captain Qin. Before he could speak, Paimon also spoke on his behalf. This is the traveler, and I am Paimon, the traveler's guide. Ying glanced at Paimon speechlessly, but didn't say much. Qin greeted Paimon with a smile on her face and said, Hello, Paimon. Then, she looked at Ying and said, I have heard about you. If you want to find your brother, I can post a missing person notice for you. As for Lord Barbatos, he hasn't been seen for a long time, and we can't decide what he did. Unless he comes out to see you in person. Ying nodded slightly and said, I can understand this. So what does it cost me? Qin was stunned for a moment, then chuckled and said, although I really want to say that this is what we should do, but you have also seen that the current situation in Mondstadt is very bad. You are very powerful, I hope you can help Mondstadt. How about becoming an honorary knight of Mondstadt? Honorary knight. Ying's eyes flickered slightly when he heard this, and he hesitated for a moment. The meaning of the other party is also very obvious. There is still a difference between honor and truth. At least she does not need to be tied to Mondstadt. She can also go to other places to find her brother. And he is half of them to them, so if he wants to find his brother in the future, Mondstadt will naturally be more attentive. Paimon quickly asked, is there any difference between an honorary knight and a regular knight? If you are in Mondstadt, you will enjoy the treatment of a regular Mondstadt knight. Qin said in a gentle tone. Ying, shall we become honorary knights? Paimon urged Ying quickly. It feels like this guy will sell himself out sooner or later. However, Ying herself also made a decision. She nodded slightly and said, I am willing to become an honorary knight, and at the same time, I will also complete the tasks I should do in Mondstadt. Qin was slightly relieved when she heard this. She already knew that the girl in front of her was the hope of saving Mondstadt and was an important part of Wendy's plan. She has no intention of taking advantage of Ying. Now they can be considered mutually beneficial and will try their best to help Ying find her brother in the future. Welcome to become an honorary knight of Mondstadt. Qin said with a gentle smile on her face, I wonder if you two have found a place to live. If not, how about living in my house with Mu Yang? That would be troublesome. This time, Ying did not refuse. She would work here in the future, so she would not give up some benefits. Then, she thought of the empty towns in Mondstadt and the monsters everywhere, and asked, there are so many monsters in Mondstadt, is there a way to solve it? A glimmer of appreciation flashed through Qin's heart. This is also a kind-hearted person. Then he also explained to Ying the issue of earth veins and the four winds protecting the temple. Even the abyss cult, Qin also mentioned a few words casually. Ying Venian also fell into deep thought. The name abyss is very familiar. It is not a good thing in any world. I need to be careful in the future. If I am not wrong, this may be an enemy of my own on the continent of Teyvat, right? She is inseparable from the abyss. She glanced at Mu Yang, who was not far away again. With his ability, he should be able to help Captain Qin. Is Mu Yang unwilling to do so? Or did Qin not offer an invitation? However, at this time, Ying would not say much. She herself was not a talkative person, but Paimon did talk a lot. She could be responsible for future external negotiations. You guys probably haven't had dinner yet, why don't you let me come and cleanse your honorary knights? Qin saw that the time was almost up, so she extended an invitation to them. Paimon wants to eat fried pork with honeyed carrots, chicken stuffed with sweet flowers, and. Paimon called out quickly when he heard Qin was going to treat the guests to dinner. This scene also made everyone laugh. Paimon's appearance does not make people feel uncomfortable, but makes people feel cute. He is really a greedy little guy. Qin looked at Paimon and thought of a certain little guy again, her eyes flickered slightly, and finally she shook her head and led a few people to the Deer Hunter restaurant. At this time, it was time to eat, and the Deer Hunter restaurant was almost full of people, except for one place. In a corner, there was a woman with sky blue hair and an almost perfect figure, sitting there eating dinner, and her surroundings were empty. The nearby customers pointed at her and even insulted her, but the girl ate her meal silently as if she didn't hear anything. Chapter 59. Unlucky, why do you want to eat with the Lawrence family? Who knows? People from the Lawrence family shouldn't stay. This woman is also the guerrilla captain of the Knights of the West Wind. I don't know how such a person became a Knight of the West Wind. She should not have been allowed to join the Knights of the West Wind in the first place. That's right. This time the outside of Mondstadt is occupied by monsters. Do you think it's the fault of this evil descendant of the Lawrence family? It must be their fault. Otherwise, why can't the Knights of the West Wind protect the wilderness? Discussions continued to enter the ears of Qin, Mu Yang, and others, which made Qin's heart sink. Although Eula had always regarded Qin as a competitor, Qin also regarded the other party as her partner. Own friends. Qin can empathize with the other party's heart to protect Mondstadt. After the number of monsters outside began to increase, Yura was also the first to rush to the front to fight, and even suffered a lot of injuries. Some time ago, when the people of Mondstadt retreated into the city and abandoned all the towns outside, it was also Eula who opposed it the most fiercely. Even now, Eula is still blaming herself, and now everyone is insulting Eula. This was a little hard for Qin to accept. Even though Yura tried so hard to prove herself and do things for Mondstadt, all she got was still notoriety. This is hard for Qin to accept. If it were him, if he had been exposed to Eula's public opinion environment since childhood, he would have collapsed long ago. Yura? Mu Yang chuckled lightly, and then sat directly opposite Eula under the shocked eyes of others. You sit in front of me, and you are not afraid of others saying bad things about you. Eula raised her head and glanced at Mu Yang, and said calmly. No, I'm from Liu. If they dare to say bad things about me, I will beat them up. Then it will be an international incident. I also beat up a lady this morning and turned her into a stone statue. The fools didn't dare to speak. They are just bullying the weak and afraid of the strong. Because of the monsters, they dare not leave Mondstadt. They need a place to vent their pressure. And you, a member of the Lawrence family, are powerful and the captain of the knights. It is impossible for them not to envy them in their hearts, but they do not allow themselves to envy the Lawrence family, so insulting you and belittling you is the best thing. Way. This gives you a sense of accomplishment. In fact, it is nothing more than a group of cowards deceiving themselves and others. Mu Yang said calmly. His voice was not hidden from others. Everyone in the restaurant heard it clearly. Everyone was furious, but they did not dare to refute Mu Yang. The fact that the fool executives became stone statues has become the biggest news in Mondstadt, and almost everyone knows it. They don't dare to provoke this evil star. What if the other party really turns them all into stone statues? It's just that they didn't dare to do anything to Mu Yang, but they dared to be hostile to Eula, and they transferred their resentment against Mu Yang to Eula. Naturally, Eula also felt this scene, and she let out a bitter smile. Although she didn't care about being hostile, such an unreasonable disaster really made her feel a little uncomfortable. I will remember this grudge. Yora Lawrence, I heard Yanfei mention you. Mu Yang said immediately. Do you know Yanfei? Eula asked with a hint of emotion on her face at this time, staring at Mu Yang. Well, I know her grandma very well. I often go to her place for tea and cigarettes, and I've met her a few times. Mu Yang chuckled and explained, this is the letter she asked me to bring you. As he spoke, he took out a letter and placed it in front of Eula. Yanfei's grandma. Eula's eyes flickered slightly, she was an immortal. Are they familiar with each other? However, it is understandable why the other party took the initiative to sit in front of me. She took the letter, and it was indeed Yanfei's handwriting, with a rare smile on her face. At this time, Qin also came over and sat next to Eula. This moment made the surrounding customers unable to calm down. Why does Captain Qin sit with this woman Yura? This is the remnant of the Lawrence family. Mu Yang looked at Eula silently. He was curious about one thing. If he dragged Eula into the chat group, what would happen to Eula? In fact, he felt that if Yura could be ruthless, she would not be able to get rid of some people in the Lawrence family and let Yura directly become the leader of the organization that Wendy mentioned before. Please give me flowers. What Diluc can do, Yura may not be able to do. Captain Qin, please drive this remnant of Lawrence out of the Knights of the West Wind. Yes, she must have deliberately defeated the battle, which ultimately led to the monsters occupying Mondstadt. There is also Liu's advisor. He injured the envoy of the Winter Kingdom before. He must be trying to destroy the relationship between Mondstadt and the Winter Kingdom. Catch him quickly and explain to the Winter Kingdom. Yes, Eula must be colluding with Liu. Catch them quickly. Qin's arrival has obviously given these people a backbone. No matter how rampant your envoy from Liu is, there is no way he can attack us in front of Captain Qin, right? They also became wanton and reckless. 0. These words made Eula lower her head silently, and Qin wanted to explain something, but she didn't know how to explain it for a while. Oh, it seems that I am too talkative. You actually want to arrest me? I just want to see who can catch me. Following Mu Yang's snort, those who originally clamored to arrest Mu Yang began to petrify on their bodies, gradually turning into stone statues. This scene shocked countless people instantly. Those customers who were not petrified became silent. Mu Yang really dared to take action. Or in front of Qin. Some people who were relatively close to the door had already jumped towards the door. How scary! Peimen shrank his neck and hid behind Ying. Such an ability was a bit too scary. However, Ying looked at Mu Yang thoughtfully, not to mention, this guy is quite domineering. Qin quickly said to Mu Yang, please let these people go, they are all unintentional remarks. I have told them to shut up before. Since they are unwilling to shut up, then I will stop them from opening their mouths. Mu Yang said calmly, he doesn't even dare to disobey me like this. Qin's pupils couldn't help but shrink. She naturally understood who Shiyang was talking about at this time. Barbados, the god of wind. Disobedience is not a word that can just be used. Is it possible that Mu Yang is stronger than Barbados, or does he have a higher status? Thinking of this, Qin's heart couldn't help but tighten. Chapter 60. Mu Yang doesn't seem to be as easy to talk to as he seems, but these guys really have enough. You even asked for Mu Yang to be arrested. Are you sure you are not a spy from the Winter Solstice Kingdom? How to catch Mu Yang? Even Lord Barbados may not be able to defeat others. Mr. Mu Yang. Barbara pulled Mu Yang's sleeve, wanting to say something. Don't worry, you won't die. But these unruly people in Mondstadt should also be taken care of. Since they are so powerful, do they have the ability to deal with monsters by themselves? They think about the Knights of the West Wind and everything, why don't they think about saving themselves? Why don't you go fight against the monsters yourself? Instead, come to accuse the heroes who just returned from the fight outside Mondstadt. Mu Yang curled his lips. But in my heart, I said, let's seal it for a year first. Then it will depend on 673 whether I feel like adding more time. Otherwise, do you really think he has a good temper? Damn, I'm so angry. I'll go to the lady's place to strengthen the seal and seal it for another month. Well, I will explain it to the fools when the time comes. I think these fools will not let these Mondstads go. Qin looked at Eula guiltily and said, I'm sorry, Eula, for causing you to be unfairly wronged. This is not your fault. Are you pitying me? I will bear this grudge. Eula snorted lightly, but had no intention of leaving. She was very interested in Mu Yang at this time. If Mu Yang was just a dispensable person to him before, it is different now. The other party brought Yan Fei's letter to him, and that's enough. Lawrence is Lawrence, and you are you. Although your ancestors did a lot of wrong things, there is nothing wrong with you wanting to atone for your sins. But the more you don't resist, the more those people will target you. Mu Yang thought for a while and said to Qin, why not expose what Eula once did? Qin said helplessly, when Yura was promoted to captain of the guerrilla team, she received opposition from many people. At that time, Yura's contribution had already been demonstrated. But no one is willing to show kindness to Eula, and even thinks that this is just Lawrence's conspiracy. The purpose is to confuse the Knights of the West Wind. Yura's experience was not so bad before, but because of the monster, everyone was very depressed. Perhaps as you said, Yura became a punching bag. Eula took a sip, but also agreed with these words. Although she was unwilling to do so, Eula silently endured their insults. This is how people think that what they know is correct. Mu Yang smiled noncommittally, although Mondstadt has freedom of speech, the law is too loose. Defaming and insulting national public officials would be a serious crime in other worlds and other countries, unless they can produce corresponding evidence. I will perfect the law from now on. Qin's eyes lit up when he heard this. The Knights of the Westwind would not refuse such a law. As for whether ordinary people will support it, I have not abolished their power, but they cannot insult public officials. As long as you have evidence, we will take him down immediately. Qin. Looking at Qin like this, Eula opened her mouth, but in the end she could only say, don't think that I will be grateful to you if you are like this. This is what I should do. Qin said firmly. She wanted to do this, but she couldn't find a breakthrough. Wind Guardian, Disciple Rosalind, later Diluc's father, and now Yura, they are all heroes of Mondstadt, but they have all been treated unfairly. Qin wants to change all that. Looking at such a determined Qin, Eula also felt in a daze in her heart. Maybe this was Qin. In this regard, she would never be able to compare with her. Humph, don't think that you can move me like this. I will remember this grudge. Mon's problems are still quite big. At this time, these hidden dangers have been exposed one by one. Mu Yang said lightly, then looked at the frightened Miss Sarah beside him, and said softly, Miss Sarah, don't worry, someone will take them away later. He took out a handful of mola and said, this mola will be regarded as compensation for the Deer Hunter restaurant. Sarah saw Mu Yang's molas, which must have cost at least hundreds of thousands of molas, and waved her hands repeatedly, no, it should be my responsibility for not maintaining order in the restaurant. Yola pursed her lips, Miss Sarah is a good person, and this is one of the few restaurants that does not exclude her. I just didn't expect that Miss Sarah would be implicated because of my own affairs. It's okay, and I was the one who did it. Please send us some dinner, thank you. After Mu Yang said this, he pushed Mora into Sarah's hand very domineeringly and could not refuse. Sarah looked at the mola in her hand and sighed. With so many molas, it was indeed difficult to refuse. Moreover, the business of the Deer Hunter restaurant in the past few days may also be affected. I didn't expect that, Mu Yang, you are quite reasonable. Peimen said after Mu Yang sat down. The truth is to reason with people who are reasonable, not to let others bully you. Mu Yang chuckled, some people like to fight with those who are reasonable, and use force to meet people they can't beat. It's only when I want to be reasonable that I try to use reason to restrain the other party. You are here watching the people of Mondstadt being petrified, I'm afraid you will also have some troubles in the future. Yora looked at Qin and reminded her coldly. I understand. Qin rubbed his head, but it must be done, and their actions also destroyed the friendship between Liu and Mond. Eula pursed her lips, good guy, this is really coming out of the blue. For some reason, Eula felt that Qin seemed to have changed a lot in 3.1, but she couldn't tell where exactly it had changed. Putting aside those unhappy things, the atmosphere of this meal was much better. Especially after Qin told Eula something about the Guardian of the Four Winds and wanted to invite her to join the war, Eula accepted after hesitating. Well, the tone is still very arrogant. Seeing Eula leaving, Mu Yang hesitated for a while, but still did not directly pull her into the group in this world. Even though Eula is also a very good tool person, now Eula needs a new life. Otherwise, she would still be trapped in the surname Lawrence. As for Lawrence, Mu Yang's eyes also became deeper. They had a ridiculous plan. This is what Wendy told Mu Yang. Chapter 61. After Mu Yang and the others finished their meal, Qin hurried back to the knight's headquarters, and Eula also said goodbye to Mu Yang. However, before leaving, Eula also made an agreement with Mu Yang to go to Qin's house tomorrow morning. When Mu Yang and the others arrived at home, Wendy's green figure was already waiting here. It's that bard. Paimon also exclaimed when he saw Wendy. Paimon, have you seen Wendy? Barbara asked curiously. Ying and Paimon were in the wild before, and after meeting them, they must have never seen Wendy. So when did they meet? Ying, on the other hand, looked at Wendy hesitantly. For some reason, she felt that this Wendy was very extraordinary. Hey, hello, traveler, Paimon. Wendy greeted several people when she saw them. Wendy, you actually left just now, we thought you were in danger. Paimon said dissatisfiedly to Wendy with his hands on his hips. Hey, I am also the holder of the Eye of God after all. You have to have confidence in me. Wendy shook her Eye of God and said, we are destined to meet together. I will treat you to a drink. You treat me to fish. After the grilled fish is finished, I naturally have to leave. Is that so? Paimon looked thoughtful, and what Wendy said made sense. Then, Wendy spoke to Mu Yang again. Mu Yang, are you interested in going to a play with me? Oh? It looks like a very good show. Mu Yang also had a look of interest on his face. Neither Mu Yang nor Wendy mentioned the Deer Hunter restaurant. There is no need. After all, Mu Yang is the law of heaven. Some gods will not care about such things, but some gods will not allow themselves to be insulted. It's a pity that Mu Yang didn't bring the maintainer of the law with him. If he did, based on the words of those people, there would probably be one more nail in Mondstadt. He also hopes that these people can understand what it means to speak out. Moreover, Wendy now feels a little guilty about Eula. She is no worse than Qin, but she is dragged down by the Lawrence family. Wendy wanted to clear her name, but Lawrence's people were going to cause trouble. Before the matter was resolved, it would be useless to clear her name. What are you talking about? Is there anything interesting going on? Paimon looked at Wendy curiously. Can we go there together? You two have come a long way, you should need a good rest. Wendy rubbed her head and said, there are a lot of things that are not suitable for children there. You're not going to spy on others taking a bath, are you? I'm telling you, this is not good. Paimon was startled and quickly advised him. How could we do such a thing? Mu Yang grabbed Paimon and rubbed her little face. When Paimon couldn't stand it anymore, he let go and said, then let's say goodbye first. There's no need. Deliberately waiting for me to come back. Be safe. Mr. Mu Yang. Barbara believed in Mu Yang's character very much. She felt that Mu Yang was a person with a very sense of justice. Just like what she did at the Deer Hunter restaurant, Barbara did not feel that Mu Yang was moody. Instead, she felt that Mu Yang was standing up for Eula. This may be out of a sense of justice, or maybe because Eula is Mu Yang's friend's friend. As for Mu Yang doing this because of lust, this is impossible. Their appearance is no worse than that of Eula. The previous lady was also very beautiful and had a terrifying figure. Wasn't she sealed by Mr. Mu Yang in the end? Mu Yang is definitely a gentleman. Yet. Mu Yang exchanged glances with Wendy, and then left in a hurry. Barbara, how much do you know about Wendy? After entering the house, Ying asked Barbara. Wendy? We meet often. He often performs in the square. Some ancient poems often appear from his mouth. At first, everyone doubted the authenticity of these poems, but after verification, his poems are all true. Judging from the role of bard alone, he is indeed the best bard in Mondstadt. Barbara said after pondering for a moment. An ancient poem. Ying nodded thoughtfully. Barbara, why don't you leave? Why don't you stay and rest together? You have to come over early tomorrow morning anyway. Okay. Hearing this, Barbara did not refuse. If there was only Mu Yang in the house, it would be difficult for Barbara to live there, but it would be different if she had a daughter-in-law. Mu Yang and Wendy arrived at a remote corner not far outside Mondstadt. Then Mu Yang said, "Is it over here?" "Well, it's just around here," Wendy said with a complicated expression. "To be honest, I still can't believe that someone would cooperate with the Abyss Order in an attempt to control Mondstadt. There is never a shortage of stupid people in this world." Mu Yang said with a subtle expression, "That guy Schubert is indeed a fool, but what I am curious about is why the Lawrence family is still doing this. Such an unrealistic fantasy? How could they think that the Abyss Cult 383 would hand over Mondstadt to their control after destroying Mondstadt's city defenses? Are the Lawrence family just fools? The members of the Lawrence family today all have their own principles among the Lawrence family back then. But in the past few hundred years, they have not been treated correctly, which has also made most people feel that if Mondstadt was still in the old Mondstadt, their lives would not be so bad. They still think of the old aristocracy that ruled Mondstadt." Wendy explained with a sad expression. This point was indeed something he and Vanessa had neglected at the beginning. If Lawrence's recognition could be given to them at that time, then they would not be as respected as Qin's family, nor would they be as ostracized as they are now, causing the Lawrence family to begin to fantasize about their past life, and go on a self-destructive path. "Is that so?" Mu Yang instantly understood what Wendy meant. "What are you going to do next? With your personality, you will be completely disappointed with these people, right? I want to take this opportunity to test Eula." Wendy chuckled. "For Eula, this may be an opportunity to completely separate from the past." D. Chapter 62. "I will bring Eula into the group later, but not yet." Mu Yang chuckled. "I am looking forward to how far Eula will grow in the future. She will make the right choice. I feel a strong character in her." Wendy shook her head slightly. "By the way, Wendy, you were planning to hand over the heart of God to the lady half-heartedly, right?" Suddenly, Mu Yang said coldly. Wendy looked at Mu Yang dumbfounded, as if she wanted to ask, "Why do you even know this?" However, he also nodded slightly and said, "This was originally planned. After all, we had actually acquiesced to the ice god's behavior before. Moreover, I also feel guilty about the lady, who saved Mondstadt when I was away." "Then you don't need to feel guilty now, you have saved her life," Mu Yang said calmly. Wendy's pupils shrank slightly, and he understood what Mu Yang meant. The other party had his own reasons for letting the lady go. "If it is like this, it seems that I can feel at ease." Suddenly, Wendy and Mu Yang both thought and hid their figures. Not far from them, a space door was opened, and an abyssal apostle walked out of the space door and looked around. Ichiban didn't notice Mu Yang and Wendy hiding in mid-air. "This is the Apostle of the Abyss. It seems to be the Apostle of the Abyss who tried to use the power of the Abyss to contaminate my 7-day statue," Wendy said to Mu Yang. After a pause, Wendy continued to add, "They should all be descendants of Kenria, but they have been infiltrated by the power of the Abyss, and they all have a strong hatred for the 7 gods and their country. Of course, what they hate most is Tianli." Mu Yang also nodded slightly when he heard this. He did not reject this point. Since he took the position of Tianli, he had to bear the hatred left by his predecessor. "The hatred of the Abyss and the Abyss Order," Mu Yang answered. "The Ice God and the rebellion of the Solstice Kingdom." Mu Yang also picked up. "The Abyss cult must die. It is a huge hidden danger to this world, and Mu Yang cannot just sit back and watch their continuous invasion of the Teyvat continent. At least half of the fools will die because they don't know what the Lady and Dadalia will do after they know that they are not actually travelers, but are gods. I'm afraid they want to force you out." After a little thought, Mu Yang knew the purpose of these guys, to use the power of the Abyss to corrode the 7 rulers of the world. It can be said that it is the Abyss Order. However, for you, this is a good thing. If it really comes to a critical moment, Zhongli and I can take action. As long as the Abyss is not a large-scale invasion, it is within the acceptable range. Hey, they want to send us points, but there's nothing I can do about it. Wendy thought of the veterans of the Abyss cult trying every possible means to send points to herself, and he was helpless. These guys are so honest. There is nothing he can do. About 10 minutes passed, and a sneaky figure crept over from a distance. After seeing the Apostle of the Abyss, his expression lit up, and he soon stopped smiling. He walked quickly to the Apostle of the Abyss and said, "The investigation has been strict recently. It is not easy to get out of Mondstadt city." The Apostle of the Abyss glanced at the man. "Schubert, the protagonist of this incident, nodded slightly and said, "Have you done what we told you? It's still a little short of time, but it won't take long to complete." Schubert said with a slight twinkle in his eyes, "However, you must also promise that after you take Mondstadt, you will hand Mont to our Lawrence family to take charge. If you agree, I can also provide you with strong combat power. My niece Yura is as powerful as Qin, the acting leader of the Knights of the West Wind. I can convince her to join you. By then, your Abyss religion will also have a general. Although guys like the Apostles of the Abyss are all monsters, what does they have to do with Schubert? When the time comes, it will be Yura who becomes the monster, not Schubert. I believe that Eula will also be willing to sacrifice for the sake of her family. We are not interested in the territory, we are just seeking revenge on Barbatos, the god of wind." The Apostle of the Abyss took a deep look at Schubert, with a trace of ridicule flashing in his eyes, and said in an indifferent tone, "Okay. Give me a day, and I will set up the transmission gate. When the time comes, if you need it, I can open the transmission gate for you." Schubert immediately said to the Apostle of the Abyss, "Can't the Abyss order directly enter Mondstadt?" Mu Yang also asked Wendy curiously at this time. Although Mondstadt city also has the power of the Earth's veins, it is not the same system as the Earth's veins outside the city. I used some special methods at the beginning, and almost the 7 gods used similar methods in their respective countries. There are almost no monsters in the city. The Space Gate of the Abyss Order essentially utilizes the power of Earth veins. Without the help of people in Mondstadt, they would not be able to enter Mondstadt directly. Wendy explained softly. "Is that so? It seems that there are still too few things that I need to know." Mu Yang also nodded slightly when he heard this. In fact, he is still interested in the affairs of his predecessor Tian Li, such as the 4 shadows and the 3 moon goddesses, which are extremely mysterious existences. Their status on the continent of Teyvat is even higher than that of the 7 gods. However, now there is only one maintainer of heavenly principles left. What is the story behind this? Mu Yang is also very curious. It's a pity that the old man is a person who has a strong ability to keep secrets. Even if Mu Yang asked him, he just told Mu Yang that he couldn't tell because of the contract. After all, the contract never ends because the other party dies. As for Wendy, this guy is very hidden, but it is really difficult to get some information from Wendy. On the other side, the Apostle of the Abyss was also very satisfied with Schubert's attitude. He drew a pie for Schubert and said, "Don't worry, in 3 days, the Wind Demon Dragon will attack Mondstadt. When the time comes, it will definitely attract all the attention, and you can open the space door. Then just leave it to us, and Mond will become your Lawrence family." After a pause, the Apostle of the Abyss, Qian, burst out with an extremely terrifying killing intent and said, "If you mess up the matter, it will only take a little more effort for us, but you know the consequences of your words." Yes, yes, yes. Schubert felt the killing intent coming from the Apostle of the Abyss, and his whole body shivered. If he has such strength, and cooperates with the Wind Demonic Dragon, he might really be able to deal with that BD Feng Shen. After warning Schubert, the Apostle of the Abyss opened the space door again and left. Schubert then returned to his previous arrogance and snorted, "What the hell? When Eula also joins the Church of the Abyss, her status will be higher than yours sooner or later, and I will make you kneel and kowtow to me." After saying that, he also ran quickly towards the city along the road he came before. Schubert didn't dare to stay outside the city for too long, because the place was full of monsters. But when she saw how he got in and out of Mondstadt, Mu Yang asked with a strange expression, "Why is there such a dog hole in Mondstadt's city wall that no one cares about?" Chapter 63. Maybe it took too long to build the city wall and it fell into disrepair. Wendy scratched the back of her head in embarrassment. He himself had never thought that there was such a dog hole in Mondstadt. It seemed that this dog hole had existed for a long time. The Knights of the Westwind have not discovered this dog hole for so long, so there is something wrong. But what could he say? Of course I'm looking for some excuse for the Knights of the Westwind. Actually, this may not be an opportunity for us. When you quickly changed the subject and said, "Is there a chance? Attract the Abyss cult and then eliminate it in one fell swoop? This is indeed a way." Mu Yang nodded slightly. If the opponent catches Mond by surprise, huge losses will inevitably be caused by that time. But as long as you are prepared, you can kill as many as you come when the time comes. Just ask the other party to send the head over directly. The only thing that needs to be debated is whether Mondstadt has the ability to deal with the invasion of the Abyss Order. There will definitely not be too many Abyss Orders entering Mondstadt City. Wendy thought for a moment and said, with the current strength of the West Wind Knights, it should be possible to solve it. There are still a few days left before Teyvat's invasion, and I can still take Qin and I look to become stronger. By then their strength will also be greatly improved. Mu Yang also nodded slightly when he heard this. Even he sighed with emotion. Dailuk and Qin have brought him a lot of points in the past 2 days. This is not because Dailuk and Qin are too strong, but because of Wendy. The controls are really easy to use. As long as Wendy opens an Eye of the Storm and absorbs all the nearby monsters, the two of them can go up and harvest their heads. The time they spent dealing with monsters is not as good as the time they spend walking. Qin and Dailuk's gains in the past 2 days were comparable to what Keqing had gained in a month. Of course, this cannot be blamed on Keqing. The number of monsters in the wilds of Liu is not comparable to that of Mondstadt. Moreover, Keqing often eliminates monsters alone, so naturally her speed cannot keep up with Qin and the others. What's more, Wendy is a god in the big world. If it were Mu Yang himself, he would also like to team up with teammates like this. To absorb monsters and control them, all you need to do is harvest heads. In order for the two of them to become stronger quickly, Wendy also took great pains. That's true. Tomorrow you can go to some places with more monsters to help them improve their strength. Mu Yang pondered for a moment and said, Dadapa Valley seems to be a very good choice. As long as you move the Kaihokyu over there everyone was wiped out. By then, Qin and Dailuk will probably be able to at least rise to the top 8 executive positions of the Fools. Wendy couldn't help but twitch her mouth when she heard this. Mu Yang should be talking about ladies, right? You are definitely talking about a woman, right? Although the lady was easily defeated by Mu Yang, there is no doubt about the lady's strength. Under normal conditions, she can use the authority of the Ice God, and after liberating the strength of the Flame Witch, she also has a strength comparable to that of an immortal. By the time Dailuk and Qin have this strength, Mondstadt will be much safer, and even a small-scale invasion by the Abyss Order will be within the acceptable range. The target of Dadapa, BCBC, Valley is too big. If Dadapa Valley is really cleaned up, the Abyss religion will definitely think that it was me who took action. Wendy was a little non-committal. After all, the plan was impossible. Random destruction. Didn't they force you to take action? At this time, the more you take action, the happier they will be and the harder they will try to pollute you. It's like I want to control Teyvat to attack you later, isn't it just to force you to take action? Mu Yang chuckled and said, this is a steady stream of points. That seems to make sense. Wendy showed a sudden look. I used to worry about being contaminated by the power of the Abyss, but now I am not afraid anymore. As long as I don't wear a crown, it will be under the control of the Abyss cult. They may even think that I am making a last stand of resistance. So now you can properly clear out some monsters, but you can't clear out too many at once. In this way, even if you are discovered by the Abyss cult, they will only think that you are trying hard, but you can no longer do it all. Their plan works. You can even pretend that you are about to be eroded and degraded by the Abyss. When the time comes, they will work harder to corrode you, and even bring Teyvat with them. After all, with you, a fallen god of wind, who needs Teyvat? They didn't even think that you could clean up the filth in the Abyss, right? Mu Yang patted Wendy's shoulder and said softly. Look at it this way, the Abyss cult, they are such good people. Wendy was also full of sighs at this time. When the battle is resolved, I can still pretend to be a citizen who is about to die. This will not reveal that we can actually purify the power of the Abyss. And with the strength of Dailuk and Qin, it won't be too difficult to eliminate the monsters in Mondstadt when the time comes. Then I can paddle and fish again. Mu Yang looked at Wendy speechlessly. Don't you plan to purify those filthy people in the Abyss? I will naturally work hard to pull it off, but then Mond also needs to recover for a while, right? I can't withstand too much trouble, I also need to be stationed here. Wendy spread her hands and thought of one thing, but gave up after a flash. The main force of the West Wind Knights is still on an expedition. If possible, he also hopes that Mu Yang can give them a chat group, but he also knows that what Mu Yang gave Mondstadt is far more valuable than his own heart of God. Moreover, Mu Yang himself may not really want them back. Both Liu and Mondstadt will now face a reform, and it is a reform caused by Mu Yang's natural law. Compared to the previous natural laws restricting human development, Wendy is obviously more looking forward to the current changes. For Mu Yang, those who are on the expedition are also a hidden danger. Even though they can be promoted in the name of the gods, it seems that there is no need. Thinking of the many people in the Knights of the West Wind, even Wendy would have one way of letting them die outside and finish them off in the name of heroes. By the way, after Mondstadt is over, you should probably go to Deo wife. Then, Wendy reminded Mu Yang with a serious expression. Oh. Mu Yang looked at Wendy suspiciously. My next plan is to get the god's heart from the grass god. I am very confident about getting that god's heart. It's not that Nahida is easy to bully, but that Yang can offer something Nahida can't refuse. For example, with the ability to purify filth, he can not only purify the filth of the abyss, but also purify forbidden knowledge. On this point, Mu Yang is still very confident. The world tree still needs its own power to clean up, and Mu Yang can also rescue the little lucky grass king, and can also take away the heart of God with peace of mind. The most important thing is that Sumi is guilty. Artificially created demons. This is very brave. I'm afraid you don't want to be nailed. If nothing happened to your predecessor, Tian Li, and you know what Sumi has done, you will be nailed sooner or later. As for Dao's wife, Mu Yang has no intention of going directly. Lei Qingqing is a martial artist, but he does not have enough strength to convince Lei Qingqing. Mu Yang's strength needs to be further improved. It's just that Wendy wanted to go to Dao wife. Could it be that something happened to Dao wife? Well, Qian Feng told me that the ground veins on Inazuma's side are also very disordered, and there are some uncontrollable trends. That side is close to the NYC. If something happens to Ina wife, those guys in the NYC might not sit idly by and ignore it. After a pause, Wendy continued to add, moreover, Rice wife is a very special country, where there are many secrets of the Teyvat continent. Some secrets are not even accessible to us, the seven gods. But as the law of heaven, you must understand the truth. Understood. Mu Yang also nodded slightly when he heard this. It seems that Dao wife's secrets are indeed quite a lot of problems, both in Yuanxia Palace and Huguan. However, Inazuma's biggest problem at present is the disorder of the earth's veins. If it were normal times, the sacred cherry tree would have suppressed these problems, but it is different now. The entire landline of Teyvat continent was in chaos. The situation of Rice wife is also conceivable. Moreover, Inazuma-san's situation may not be much better than that of the West Wind Knights after the expedition. Don't forget that the one who holds the military power is Tianling Shixu. As for those drunkards and trash from the Kyujo family, it would be a strange thing if they could solve the problem. After exhorting Mu Yang, Wendy left directly. He still had many things to deal with. For example, I went to Angel's Gift for a drink and helped Diluc earn so many points during the day. Now I am enjoying myself. If you don't go to Angel's Gift today, you'll be really at a loss. Maybe you can get some precious wine from Diluc. Mu Yang returned to Qin's house in a flash, and found that Barbara had fallen asleep on the sofa. Different from the priest's clothes that Barbara usually wore, Barbara at this moment was wearing a pure white suit. The pleated nightgown gives Mu Yang a different feeling. Barbara is not very old, but she is still quite capable. Especially those curled up little feet are very cute. Mu Yang muttered, came to Barbara's side, pushed her shoulder, Barbara, Barbara. Chapter 64. Well. Barbara woke up in a daze. Seeing Mu Yang close at hand, she quickly stood up and said, Mu Yang, you are back. Well, do you want to stay here today? If you are sleepy, go back to sleep. It's not comfortable to sleep here, and you might catch a cold. Mu Yang reminded Barbara. Barbara nodded slightly, and then asked Mu Yang, Mr. Mu Yang, do you want a midnight snack? If you're hungry, I can prepare a midnight snack for you. Seeing Barbara like this, Mu Yang also smiled, if you have anything you want to tell me, just ask me directly. There's no need to be polite to me. Well, have you seen through it? Barbara smiled shyly, Mr. Mu Yang, are you and your sister hiding something from me? I'm not in a relationship with your sister, don't worry about that. Mu Yang said without even thinking about it. When he was in Liu, he casually said a few words, and Dodalai took it as a scandal between him and Keqing and Ning Guang. If this was a casual blow to Qin, or in front of Barbara, then Xu Yang felt that he would never have anything to do with Qin in the future. That's not what I meant. Barbara waved her hands quickly. In fact, she felt that Mu Yang would be pretty good if he were her brother-in-law. After all, the opponent is very handsome, can fight well, and is very good at taking care of others. He is definitely a warm man. It would be nice if my sister and Mu Yang could be together. But for some reason, after Mu Yang denied her relationship with Qin, Barbara felt extremely relaxed. Your sister and I have some cooperation. So the relationship is pretty good. We can be considered friends. As for the rest, you can ask your sister. Mu Yang then explained to Barbara. Is that so? Barbara nodded thoughtfully, and then her expression became nervous. Ask whatever you want. Of course, if you want to express your feelings, you can do that too. Seeing this, Mu Yang chuckled and teased. Barbara's pretty face turned red all of a sudden, and she stuttered, it's a little too abrupt to confess your feelings or something. After saying that, she hurried to her room without looking back. Ha, girl. You are a little too thin-skinned. However, after thinking about Barbara's age and occupation, Mu Yang felt relieved. If it were Blue Star, many 13 and 14-year-old girls have already begun to fall in love, but as Barbara is a prayer pastor, the situation is different. After Barbara left, another door was opened, and Ying walked out directly, but the way she looked at Mu Yang was very strange, as if she was looking at something. Scum. Obviously, the previous conversation between Mu Yang and Barbara was overheard. What are you looking at? You are more contemptuous than me. Seeing Ying like this, Mu Yang was also speechless. Everyone else is qualified to see themselves in this way, but only Ying is not. You are slandering, you are slandering. This is a defamation of my character. Ying also quit immediately, even though she didn't have much confidence in her own character. But now that Mu Yang says it, how can Ying accept it? Mu Yang looked at Ying noncommittally. Seeing Mu Yang's indifferent look, Ying calmed down her emotions, stared at Mu Yang and asked, Mu Yang, who is that Wendy? You have him very special. He's just a bard who likes to drink and fish. Mu Yang spread his hands, and then said meaningfully, moreover, even if I tell you whether he is a good person or a bad person, wouldn't you know? Do you believe it? What a person is like needs to be discovered through observation, rather than relying on others to tell you. And sometimes, it is difficult for you to evaluate whether this person is a good person or a bad person. Maybe someone is a person of extraordinary significance to you and is a good person. But to the whole world, he is a great evil man, and the things he has done are simply unspeakable. Do you think such a person is a good person or a bad person? Of course he is a bad guy. Ying blurted out, Mu Yang, you are right, I will observe it myself later. Then, she asked Mu Yang, your understanding of this world is better than mine. Do you have any faster way to get to Mora? She had seen Mu Yang casually take out hundreds of thousands of molas before. And what about yourself? Even if I try to pick up ropes all over my body, I still can't get out 1,000 malad. The meal they had before was worth 10,000 moras. Of course, half of the meal went directly into Paymon's stomach. Ying felt like she couldn't afford to support Paymon at all. Although you can get good welfare benefits in Mondstadt, Mora still has to make money. She will need to go to other countries later. Mora? Did you come quickly? Mu Yang looked Ying up and down, I'm so cute. Before time travel, there was a famous legend. He sat up in a dream while dying and found out that his wife was actually him. He is still very cute and has a good figure. When Mu Yang looked at her like this, Ying took 2 steps back warily, hey, be careful, I won't do that kind of thing. I don't think I have ever made money in Mora or anything. After arriving in Teyvat, I bought a house in the center of Lio within a short period of time and realized the freedom of wealth. Mu Yang spread his hands and said helplessly. At the beginning, he was indeed short of money, so he did not hesitate to resell the Eye of God, but now the situation has become different. Ning Guang is also working for himself. What? You said Mu Yang is the law of heaven and everyone should work for Mu Yang? Also, Mu Yang holds the heart of the rock god and can pull it out by rubbing it with his hands, so there is no need to worry about the problem of Mu Yang? Please, who told you that Mora was made from the heart of the rock god? When people make Mora, is it Morax's own ability? In essence, Mora is the flesh and blood of Morax, and can also be regarded as hair, toenails, and the like. But no one has ever said that Mora was made with the heart of God. Otherwise, how could Morax give the heart of God to the Kingdom of Winter? Doesn't this mean that the other party has the right to mint coins? By that time, the entire Mora system will be destroyed. As for Tianli's identity, Mu Yang doesn't want to be exposed for the time being, and besides, gods should be aloof. Doesn't Zhongli also have no Mora? Please give me flowers. Although he now has the supreme status as Tianli, he usually wants to exist as Mu Yang. At least at this time, Mu Yang wants to do this. Who knows, as time goes by, Mu Yang can't guarantee that he will become more divine and become indifferent to everything around him. Seize the moment and cherish the moment. That's the best thing to do. Moreover, there is indeed no shortage of Mu Yang nowadays. Seeing Mu Yang like this, Ying said that she felt sad. This time, she was really envious and jealous. Good guy, we are all travelers from another world. Why is there no problem with your strength, but I am about to be sealed? Why did you just buy a top-notch mansion while I had to live on the streets? This is too unfair. How did you earn so much Mora? Is it because of your strong strength? Ying stared at Mu Yang and asked. She wants to earn molas, lots and lots of molas. She had already estimated before that Paymen's appetite might require 200,000 moras a month. 0 for the current generation, this is simply an astronomical figure. Leaving aside Paymon, Ying had also estimated her own consumption, and she didn't want to eat and sleep outdoors every day. If I encounter a city, I also want to stay in a hotel or something. Weapons and everything need to be maintained. Thinking of this, Ying also had a headache. Now she seems to have only one bladeless sword to use. As for the sword of arrival she originally used, it seems to have been sealed and cannot be used at all. Damn mystical gods! You can think of it this way, I have cooperated with Liu's Tianquan star, and she is the richest woman in the entire Teyvat continent. Mu Yang spread his hands. This made Ying look a little suspicious. Mu Yang is very handsome and good-looking, combined with the introduction of the richest woman. Ying herself had a dirty mind, and her thoughts suddenly went wrong. Is this guy Mu Yang being kept? If you want to earn Mora, you can actually go to the Adventurers Association. Mu Yang didn't notice Ying's thoughts and just suggested, although the Adventurers Association was established by the Solstice Kingdom. In the future, if you encounter people from the Solstice Kingdom and fools outside, you need to be wary of them. These guys have done a lot of unethical things, such as human experiments, sowing discord in countries around the world, causing civil strife, and so on. But the Adventurers Association was established by them in cooperation with other countries. The local Adventurers Association in each country is essentially supervised by the local government. It is relatively reliable. Human experiments, sowing relations between various countries, and triggering wars, why are they so familiar? Ying murmured, but she still remembered Mu Yang's suggestion, Adventurers Association? I will go there and have a look later, I hope the income is not too bad. This also depends on the level of the entrustment. If it is some high-level entrustment, millions of molas are simple. Mu Yang chuckled, it's just that the higher the level of entrustment, the more dangerous it is. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you all. I'm sorry. Chapter 65. By the way, there are a lot of monsters outside Mondstadt, and the Adventurers Association also has the task of eliminating monsters. When you are free, you can take on these tasks. At your rate today, you should be able to earn more than 100,000 molas. Mu Yang made an estimate and suggested to Ying. 100,000 molas? Doesn't that mean there must be at least a few million molas per month? Ying exclaimed. He did kill a lot of monsters, but Ying didn't care at that time, and he didn't know that killing monsters could earn him Mora. I just wanted to help Mondstadt destroy some monsters. As a result, I never expected that these monsters would be so valuable. More than 100,000 molas. How much food can this eat? In the current eyes, Mondstadt is not a country occupied by monsters, but a country full of Mora. She has confidence in her own strength. Although it is not as good as her heyday, she still has no problem dealing with some monsters. As long as there are no too powerful monsters, she will just kill them. Well, of course, in other countries, it is still very difficult to obtain millions of moras a month just by killing ordinary monsters. It's just that during this period of 197, the Earth's veins in Mondstadt were particularly chaotic, and monsters were born in large numbers. However, the main force of the Westwind Knights was on an expedition and had no time to eliminate these monsters. This resulted in Mondstadt's monsters being particularly numerous. Mu Yang chuckled lightly, if we come to Liu, if you just clear out ordinary monsters and earn 1 million more as a month, you will definitely not be able to earn it. If you want to make a lot of money, you still need to use powerful monsters or accept some specific tasks. Ying nodded thoughtfully, it seems that a situation like Mons is something that can only be encountered. If you miss such an opportunity, there will be no next chance. You can say that. Mu Yang twitched the corner of his mouth and nodded slightly. Thank you very much, I'll go back to sleep first. Tomorrow I will take Paimon to the Adventurers Association to have a look. When I make money, I'll treat you to a big dinner. After Ying said this, he hurried back to his room. Now she needs to recharge her batteries. Make money. Ha! Woman! Mu Yang chuckled, shook his head and returned to his room, focusing on the chat group. Keqing, finally, we have almost collected the evidence, and this time we have to thank Daglia. Ningguang, indeed, Dadalia doesn't seem to have a very good mind. The businessman I placed next to him asked that he wanted some contacts, and Dadalia introduced him directly, and we got a lot of lists. After that, Yelan investigated a lot of information, especially colluding with the fools to use their power to seek benefits. They even let fools murder the people of Liu. This time the evidence was enough. Keqing, it's just impossible to beat them all to death with one stick. What a pity. Mu Yang, are you going to start taking action? It's great, but it's a pity that I'm not in Liu, so there's no way to see the 9 tribes competing for joy, or the 18 tribes competing against each other. Zhongli, based on universal rationality, Liu's laws do not harm the 9 clans. Mu Yang, that's a matter of Liu law. If his family did not rely on his crime to seek benefits for themselves, but if they enjoyed the benefits, then Jing would have to pay the price. How can it be so unfair? This is not in line with the spirit of the contract. Zhongli, in this way, it does seem a bit unfair. Zhongli was a little hesitant at this time. He was not the kind of god who liked to harm his family. But what Mu Yang said makes sense. Your family members have used power for personal gain and gained benefits for your family. You have also enjoyed the benefits, so you need to pay the price. It doesn't make sense. It's really unfair to enjoy the benefits without paying the price. Breach of contract. Mu Yang, moreover, if there is such an implicated crime, when someone wants to commit a crime in the future, they will also think about their family members. When a family member wants to commit a crime, other people will also stop them. Of course, this may also cause disaster to some people who have no problem. Ningguang, how about the 5th-generation descendants of criminals who are not allowed to enter Liu's official department? The exam is indeed the end of the universe. Zhongli, in addition, some measures can be added. As for directly killing the entire clan, it is indeed a bit too cruel. Mu Yang, But I'm still curious about what will happen to Tianxianxing and the others in the future. Work hard and deal with them. Then Liu can carry out reforms. Gan Yu, I really didn't expect that those guys would use their power to do such things. Unfortunately, I thought they were all working hard for Liu. Keqing, if they were exposed so easily, it would be impossible for Emperor Yanwang to let them become 7 stars. He knows people but not their hearts, and Emperor Yanwang does not know everything. Gan Yu. At this time, even Gan Yu didn't know how to explain to Emperor Yanwang. At this time, Emperor Yanyu must know what is right and wrong. If you knew, wouldn't you be sitting back and watching these bastards destroy Liu? This is absolutely unacceptable. Mu Yang looked at the content in the chat group without saying anything. He clicked on Zhongli's chat box for a private chat and told her and Wendy's plan. Zhongli, as long as you control it well, this is indeed a good plan. The only thing to worry about is that the monsters from the abyss will invade Mondstadt in large numbers. Mu Yang, I feel a bit pity. If Keqing and Ningguang were not so busy, they could come here to gain experience. Mondstadt has too many point babies. With Wendy's help, Diluc and Qin's strength has surpassed Keqing's. I feel that they are no weaker than Dadalia now. Zhongli, the immortal cannot go to Mondstadt without Barbato's invitation. As the 7 rulers of the world, I went to Mondstadt. It would be okay if I just served as Zhongli. But if Morix appears, if Sky Island does not respond, the impact will be huge. Mu Yang, well, I understand, but the problem shouldn't be big. If it really doesn't work, I'll ask you for help. I believe you can make it in time. I will start a live broadcast. Zhongli, yes. Then I will leave the rock abyss tomorrow and go to meet that young master Dadalia. It's almost time to collect the life money from the ice god. The next day, when Mu Yang got up and came to the living room, he found that Barbara was the only one in the room. He asked Barbara suspiciously, "Where are Barbara Drum and Paimon?" "Ying and Paimon? They are heading to the Adventurers Association. My wife seems to be in dire need of Mora. I lent her money, but she was unwilling to accept it," Barbara said helplessly. For her, the mission of exterminating monsters is not a big problem. There's no need to worry too much. Do we have any activities today? Mu Yang asked Barbara. Not yet, Mr. Mu Yang, can you teach me how to sing today? Barbara asked sheepishly. Before, Ms. Alice wanted to cultivate her into an idol, but Barbara refused. But now the situation is a little different. As Mu Yang said, singing can heal the soul. At this time of panic, Barbara wants to use her own methods to help Qin. Of course there is no problem. Mu Yang did not refuse after hearing this. Oh, by the way, he remembered that Eula was coming over today, so he wouldn't go out for the time being. He glanced at the chat group and saw that Qin, Wendy and Look had already run out of the city and headed directly to the Dadapa Valley, obviously intending to attack the villagers there. There are usually a large number of Kaihokiha people in Dadapa Valley. Now that the earth's veins are disordered, there are more and more monsters in Dadapa Valley. Today, Dadapa Valley has become a paradise for monsters. Moreover, the number of monsters here is still growing rapidly. This is simply the arsenal of the Kaihokiha people. Mu Yang is not worried about the safety of the three of them. Wendy, the sixth child, is too hidden. When it is really necessary, he can still wear the crown. A few monsters are no match for Wendy. Shortly after Mu Yang had just finished breakfast, Eula knocked on the door and came to visit. After Barbara welcomed Eula into the house, Mu Yang clearly felt that Eula was not in a very good mood today, so he asked, "What's wrong with you? It seems that you are not in a good mood." "Not very good." Eula said helplessly, "You also understand my situation, what happened yesterday has been spread out. Those people don't dare to come to you, and they know that you are a big shot in Liu, but I received more hostility on the road. Damn it, this is all your fault, this grudge, the purpose." Mu Yang chuckled softly, "Who makes you look like you are easy to bully? But speaking of which, haven't you ever thought about leaving the Lawrence family? For you now, it seems that this family only brings you a drag, right? After leaving the Lawrence family, you may be able to live a good life with your abilities. Where can it be so easy to leave the family? Moreover, my family gave birth to me and raised me. Without my family, I would not be able to grow to what I am today. You can't leave just by saying leave." Eula shook her head slightly and said, "Forget it, it's been this way for more than 10 years anyway, and I'm used to it." D. Chapter 66. Don't you plan to change something? Mu Yang stared at Eula and said, "According to my understanding, some people in your Lawrence family are involved in some big things recently. What's the big deal?" Looking at Mu Yang's pointed look, Eula asked with a frown. During this time, she did feel the weird atmosphere in the family, but Eula didn't think much about it, and she didn't want to have more contact with those guys in the family. Although she is a mainline member of the Lawrence family, Eula doesn't know many people in the Lawrence family, and she doesn't even have a good relationship with them. You need to investigate this yourself. Remember to be careful, it is very dangerous." Mu Yang chuckled lightly, and then seemed to change the topic and said, "I once heard of someone in the family in order to preserve the family's reputation. When someone wants to do something detrimental to the village, if one person massacres the entire family, he will bear the crime of massacring the entire family." This time, before Eula could say anything, Barbara exclaimed, "Who else would do this and kill his own family? What about his parents?" Mu Yang said calmly, "Kill them all. His father is the clan leader, and he is the young clan leader." Listening to Mu Yang's words, both Eula and Barbara couldn't help but take a breath of air. Is this mental illness? As the young patriarch, he even massacred his own family. Maybe you feel weird, but actually I feel weird too. Mu Yang chuckled, "It's just that I'm curious, what choice will you make between Mond and Lawrence?" Eula frowned. At this time, she already had a bad premonition. "I'm afraid that the Lawrence family is really planning something they don't know about, and what they do is harmful to Mond." Thinking of this, Eula's heart couldn't help but sink. Are those guys making unrealistic fantasies again? Tell me what happened. Eula took a deep breath and stared at Yang and asked. As if feeling that there was something wrong with her tone, Eula did not forget to add in a pleading tone, please, hiss. Not even Mu Yang thought that Eula actually had such a side. If before time travel, just saying please, Mu Yang would definitely say that he would explode, okay? Although he only symbolically drew a Eula when Eula was being re-engraved, he had no points in his zodiac sign, no weapon charge, and he didn't even level up. He just made a breakthrough after upgrading to level 20 and got a blue ball, that is, directly become a warehouse manager. But now, Mu Yang pondered for a moment, thinking about whether the plan between himself and Wendy was contrary to telling Eula, but it seemed that there was no violation. Even Eula is still under Wendy's assessment. If Eula is willing to stand up, then Wendy will stand up for Eula, and then Eula's problems will be solved. Jean, Diluc and Yora will also become the mainstay of Mondstadt. And the surnames of these three people happen to be the three earliest families in Mondstadt. This can be considered a cycle of history. Kaya, actually, I am also very capable. I shed my blood for Mondstadt. Poor brother Kaizi, even now, he has not been mentioned by Mu Yang and Wendy. There is no way, his identity is too special. Although Kaya has decided to side with Mondstadt, who caused him to have an entanglement with Camria. Even if they wouldn't target Kaya because of this, it would be impossible to join a chat group or something. Lawrence, headed by Schubert, has defected to the Abyss religion and is planning to let the Abyss religion enter Mondstadt in a few days when the Abyss religion controls Teyvat's invasion. Mu Yang stared at Eula and said. What? Eula couldn't help but exclaimed when she heard this. She knew that Schubert was very ambitious and always wanted to cause trouble, but she never thought that Schubert would want to join the Abyss cult. At this time, Yura really wanted to run home, point at Schubert's brain and ask, how does your brain look like? In the continent of Teyvat, even if you cooperate with the fools, you must not get involved with the Abyss, otherwise, you will become the public enemy of the entire Teyvat. What benefits would it bring to the Lawrence family to put people from the Order of the Abyss into Mondstadt? Yora couldn't see it at all. Could it be possible that the Abyss Order would hand over Mondstadt to the control of the Lawrence family after destroying Mondstadt? This is so stupid. But Eula also knows that what Mu Yang said is very possible. There is no need for the other party to deceive yourself. Deceiving yourself will not do Mu Yang any good, and such stupid behavior seems to be something that Schubert can do. Do you want to go home and question him now? Just when Eula got up angrily and was about to leave, Mu Yang said coldly. Shouldn't we stop him? Once the Abyss Order enters Mondstadt, Mondstadt will suffer heavy losses. Yora frowned and asked. But for you, this is an opportunity, isn't it? Mu Yang spread his hands. Today's Lawrence family is a gangrene to the entire Mondstadt, and even your Lawrence family is confused. Some people want to be good people and integrate into Mondstadt, but they are not welcomed by Mondstadt. The other part wants to restore its former glory and turn Mond into the Mond it used to be. Because Mond is dissatisfied with the Lawrence family, this has also led to more and more people joining the ranks. And you have always wanted to change people's evaluation of the Lawrence family and atone for the Lawrence family's sins. Now you are also confused, right? You want me to get rid of the Lawrence family? Eula said coldly at this time. How could she not understand Mu Yang's intention? Mu Yang spread his hands and did not deny, for you, isn't this an opportunity? If some of the hidden dangers of the Lawrence family are eliminated and the Lawrence family is completely integrated into Mondstadt, isn't this an opportunity? Even though many people will die, as long as you handle it well, there will still be people who can survive. Eula immediately fell silent after hearing this. She was not a fool and naturally understood what Mu Yang meant. If she takes action against the Lawrence family, she will become the executioner of the Handblade tribe, but at the same time, she will also become Mondstadt's hero. Based on Eula's understanding of Qin, if that time comes, Qin will come to help her clear her name and mold herself into a hero. But is this really a good thing? Soon, Eula discovered some problems again. She took a deep breath, stared at Mu Yang and asked, such a plan cannot be planned by you. Although we have common friends, you don't need to plan against me. As for Qin, I know her and she will not do such things to plot against her companions. So can you tell me who planned this incident? Could it be Senior Diluc? Barbara asked in a nonchalant manner. Wait, this doesn't seem to be the behavior of Senior Diluc. Could it be the Bard Wen Yu? At this time, Barbara also thought of the scene where Mu Yang and Wendy went out together yesterday. This seems to explain a lot of things. Bard Wendy. Yola frowned. Is this something a bard can do? However, according to her information, it seems that Qin has been with Diluc and Wendy these days. Is there any connection between this? You Mondlanders can always trust Wendy when it comes to big things. Of course, if it's a small thing, forget it. Mu Yang said 640 with meaning when he saw this. Sooner or later, Yora will join the chat group, and sooner or later Wendy's identity will be exposed, but he did not deliberately hide it. As for Barbara, if she can find out the truth, then it is Barbara's own ability. Can you always trust Wendy? Yura and Barbara both looked thoughtful. Moreover, Schubert's attempt to cooperate with the Abyss cult is something that he must be blamed for. If this matter is exposed, Schubert and even the entire Lawrence family will undoubtedly be dead, right? Mu Yang said meaningfully again, not only Mondstadt, but also the other 6 countries cannot tolerate the existence of the Lawrence family. Yura, you don't want the Lawrence family to become history completely, right? Crack, crunch. Eula clenched her fist tightly and lowered her head silently. She understood what Mu Yang meant. If Schubert really did that and she did nothing, the entire Lawrence family would probably become a thorn in everyone's side. Previously, he was only despised by Mondstadt. DJ. Equals why do I have such stupid pig teammates? Cooperate with the Abyss Order? Where is your brain? Barbara looked at Mu Yang with a strange expression. She didn't know why, but she felt that Mu Yang's tone was very strange. But Mu Yang is so upright and kind, he shouldn't do that, right? This must be just a misunderstanding. If Schubert really colluded with the Abyss Order, I will deal with those tribesmen who colluded with him. But if the Abyss cult invades, how can we stop it? Taking a deep breath, Eula asked Yang again. Chapter 67. The monsters out there are tough enough. It is not something that the current Knights of the West Wind can fight against. Otherwise, the number of monsters outside the city would not have spread to this extent. And if Mondstadt wants to solve this problem, I'm afraid the only way is for the wind god Barbados to appear. Thinking of what Mu Yang said before that she could always trust Wendy, Eula had a ridiculous thought in her heart. Could it be that that guy is Barbados? Yora still has an impression of Wendy. She is one of the few people in Mondstadt who maintains goodwill towards her. It was also the other party who told her that the current members of the Lawrence family, in fact, they were all members who resisted the tyranny of the Lawrence family. They were once heroes of Mondstadt, too. Wendy is a good person. Before, Eula didn't think that the other party was really a bard who was not doing his job properly. But now, the emergence of this idea makes Eula feel ridiculous. How could Barbados, the god of wind, be such a god? You have already thought of it, haven't you? Mu Yang said playfully, this is also the best way. After all, the curse on Teyvat needs to be resolved. If it wants to escape the wind god, it will be difficult to catch up with it. Eula was silent. If what Mu Yang said was true, then even she had to admit that this was the best way and opportunity. With the wind god Barbados at the bottom, the invasion of the Abyss Order can definitely be solved. As a Mondstadt, Yora also trusts Barbados' power. I have to ask Sheen about this matter. In addition, I will also investigate Schubert and others later. If they really collude with the Abyss cult, I will not let them go in the future. Yura took a deep breath and said firmly. Well, remember not to expose yourself, otherwise, there will be problems with the plan. It will also become more difficult to solve Mondstadt's predicament. Mu Yang warned Yura. I understand. Eula did not refuse after hearing this. Wanting to eliminate the scum in her family is actually not unacceptable to Eula. They did something unforgivable. The only thing to worry about is involving some innocent tribesmen. After all, the Lawrence family is also one of the top 3 families in Mondstadt. Now they are lonely, but they still have a large population. If this matter is exposed, these tribesmen will also be affected. Oh, these damn bastards. Barbara listened silently to the words of Eula and Mu Yang. She was not a fool, but there were some things that she couldn't figure out yet. I just feel sad for Eula. Obviously she has worked very hard and loves Mondstadt very much, but because of the Lawrence family's affairs, Eula has been burdened with a lot of hope. You can order it with Ushi. As for whether Mu Yang is cheating on Eula, Barbara is not worried, she believes in Mu Yang. Mr. Mu Yang is a good person. At the same time, a major event happened in Liu. The 7-star conference was initiated by Ningguang and Keqing and chaired by Gan Yu. Shortly after the meeting was held, Ningguang and Keqing directly took out a large amount of evidence and pointed the finger at Tianxian and Tianji. Tianxuangxing looked at the evidence that Ningguang took out, and said with an extremely ugly face, "Slander, this is definitely slander. How could I unite with people from Baguio Bank to attack our local businessmen in Liu?" Ningguang sneered, "So these photos are all fake? Are all these bank statement certificates fake?" I, Tianchuan seeing Ningguang, dare to swear to Emperor Yanwang that these evidences are true. Can you swear to Emperor Yanwang? Listening to Ningguang's words, Tianxuangxing's face turned pale and he swore to Emperor Yanwang. Does he dare? Don't dare. The things he usually does may be hidden from the eyes of Emperor Yanwang, but if he swears to Emperor Yan at this time, isn't this asking for death? Emperor Yanwang can't even tell that he's lying? Are you kidding me? Seeing Tianxian star like this, Keqing also stood up and said, "I really didn't expect that there would be such a traitor among our 7 stars. I used to think that every one of us in the 7 stars of Liu is working conscientiously for the benefit of Liu. After all, there is an emperor above us, and the emperor is still there, so you just unite the forces of other countries to target your own people. You are still using the power given to you by Emperor Yanwang. You are trying to shame the emperor. I'm really ashamed to be associated with you." Tianjixing looked at the evidence in his hands silently, and said helplessly, "How did you obtain these bank transfers? Is it so easy to get the bank statement from Northland Bank? Those guys aren't such trash, are they? Of course some people in Baguio Bank gave it to us." Ningguang said in a mysterious tone. "This matter will inevitably be exposed in the future. By then, Northland Bank will also conduct an internal self-examination, and the guy Dadalia will be very busy and even have to take the blame. Humph, let you say that Mu Yang is the pretty boy I kept, and let you say that Keqing and I are competing for husbands. Dadalia, this is just the beginning, we are not finished yet." Alas! Tianjixing sighed silently. At this time, there was no point in struggling. The evidence of their use of power for personal gain has been found by Ningguang. If they were more frank, they would have ended up well. "Secretary Gan Yu, in the name of Tianquangxing, I propose to report this matter to Emperor Yanwang, requesting that Tianxuangxing and Tianjixing be dismissed from their posts, and that the 2 families be strictly scrutinized." Ningguang said in a serious tone. Gan Yu looked at the superior and said, "Yes." Gan Yu did not refuse after hearing this. This matter itself is just a process. Emperor Yanwang has returned to Liu Port. This matter will be concluded later. However, Gan Yu also felt helpless in his heart. Tianxuangxing and Tianjixing were not like this back then. Back then, they were all ambitious young people who were full of love for Liu and wanted to shed blood for Liu. How could it become like this now? Or is it that everything they said before was a lie? "Wait, what are you going to do to our family?" But at this time, Tianxuangxing and Tianjixing were panicked. Originally, they thought that Ningguang was just targeting them. After all, they had different political opinions. They blocked Ningguang's way, and the other party just wanted to remove them. But what does Ningguang mean? Does this mean that his own family will also be put on trial? Tianxuangxing and Tianjixing also know what their own people have done. If this is investigated, the entire family will be destroyed. Ningguang, please keep a line in your life so that we can meet again in the future. Tianxuangxing gritted his teeth and stared at Ningguang and said coldly. "Do you want to threaten me?" "Sorry, I have no family." Ningguang said in an indifferent tone, "The people in Liu are my family, whoever harms the people in Liu who is my undying enemy." Roar. Accompanied by a dragon roar, the divine costume Zhongli appeared on the stage. Seeing this figure, both Gan Yu and Keqing stood up and saluted. "I have seen the emperor." Although he couldn't see the other party's appearance, it was indeed the king of rock who was right. In Liu, no one dares to pretend to be Emperor Yanwang. "Yes." Zhongli nodded slightly and looked at Tianxuangxing and Tianjixing. Ningguang and Keqing had done everything they should do. Tianxuangxing and Tianjixing are the 7 stars of Liu after all, and no one except himself is qualified to judge them. Even Gan Yu is theoretically not qualified to judge an individual. Emperor. When Zhongli looked at them like this, Tianxuangxing and Tianjixing were so frightened that they could not speak. Then they lowered their heads in shame. As for whether they were really ashamed, they had to ask themselves. Yes. The Tianqian star and the Tianji star Lia's 7 stars were dismissed from their duties and punished for treason. All family members will be examined. 5 generations of immediate family members will not be allowed to serve in Liu official institutions. At the same time, an announcement will be issued to publicize this matter. Zhongli described the outcome of the trial in an indifferent tone. As Zhongli, he is a gentle street kid, but as a god, he is the decisive rock king. Obviously, Tianxuanxing and Tianjixing have touched the bottom line of Emperor Yan Wang. There was no way Zhongli would let them go. It's just that his trial shocked Wang Lihao, Tianxuanxing, Tianjixing, and even Qiangxing and the others. Originally, they thought that this matter would be reduced to a minor issue in the end. Pressure. After all, Tianqian star and Tianji star are the 7 stars of Liu. But he didn't expect such a severe punishment. Emperor, no, my ancestors followed you in battles 2,500 years ago. Please let us go for the sake of our ancestors. At this time, Tianxuanxing was also completely panicked. Members of the direct 5 generations are not allowed to enter the Liu officialdom. Doesn't this cut off their lineage? Even the entire family suffered because of what they did. Other families will inevitably fall into trouble at this time. The crime of treason is enough to make them infamy for thousands of years. Moreover, even if the other families did not take action, it was impossible for this woman, Ning Guang, to let them go. Emperor, I still have a talisman with no taboos at home. Please be kind to me. Tianjixing also quickly begged for mercy. Those members who followed me back then have no descendants like you. If they know that their descendants are so miserable, they will wish they had no descendants. It's just that they didn't mention this, but Zhongli was angry when he mentioned it. Chapter 68. The current Tianxuanxing and Tianjixing were also descendants of heroes. It's just that what these guys did was a bit too stupid. This touched Zhongli's bottom line. Moreover, thousands of years have passed since this incestuous relationship, and you still hope that I will care about this relationship and be open-minded to you? Dreaming. If you do something wrong, you need to pay the price. Zhongli said calmly. Then he looked at Gan Yu and said, establish a new supervision system as soon as possible, improve the law, know the law and break the law, and the crime will be increased. Regardless of the 7 stars or 8 gates, they all need to be within the scope of supervision. His words made Yang Xing and the others shudder. This time, they were tricked by Tianxuanxing and Tianjixing. Although they may not have committed any crime, they suddenly had such a law on their heads. It makes people feel uncomfortable. Yes, Emperor. Gan Yu agreed softly. Zhongli looked at Keqing and Ning Guang, nodded slightly and said, Yu Hangxing and Tianquanxing did a good job. Currently, there is a mixed bag among the many institutions within the 8 sects and even Liu. Next, the 2 leaders conducted a self-examination, focusing on those who cheated and practiced favoritism, especially nepotism, which was a top priority. I hope you don't disappoint me. The other 7 stars cooperate with Tianchuan star and Yuhang star. Keqing and Ning Guang looked at each other, feeling happy in their hearts. Is this allowing them to carry out drastic reforms? This is really great. They have long wanted to take action against those guys inside. Especially the 8 gates, it has even become a talking point for some people and some families. This is absolutely unacceptable. This time, it's time for a big cleanup. Yes. Qiangxing and YAO627 Guangxing looked at each other and did not refuse. It seems that many people will be unlucky in the future. As for Ning Guang, they are not worried. He is not old, but he can be described as cunning. But if Keqing is the case, that's not necessarily the case. I'm afraid she will directly carry out drastic reforms, and many people will be kicked out of the 8 gates by then. Emperor, this is basic internal energy. Can it be promoted in Liu? At this time, Uncle Kai also took out a book of basic internal energy and asked. They have already discussed this matter themselves, and Uncle Tian will propose it. Keqing and Ning Guang will stay put so that they can see the attitude of the other 7 stars. As a result, they did not expect that Liu would be so powerful and directly help them capture Tianqian star and Tianji star in disguise. Basic internal strength is suitable for ordinary people to practice. If you are a holder of the Eye of God, you can also get bonuses. It is beneficial and harmless and can be promoted. You 7 stars can just promote this matter on your own. After Zhongli said that and saw that the matter was almost settled, he turned into a golden light and disappeared into the Yuehei pavilion. Best farewell to the Emperor. Keqing saluted quickly, but after that, these people had mixed feelings in their hearts. The biggest benefit this time is definitely Ningguang and Keqing, who took over Tianxian Star and Tianji Star at once, and also have the power to clean up the 8 gates and other official organizations. But what is that basic internal strength? Can he be recognized by the emperor? Qiangxing and Yao Guangxing looked at Uncle Tian one after another. Mr. Zhongli, where have you been? Why have you disappeared for so long? On the other side, Dadalia didn't know the seriousness of the matter at this time. Although he had a good meal, Mr. Zhongli left for a short period of time for convenience reasons. Could it be that he was middle-aged and couldn't urinate? Thinking of this, Dadalia looked at Zhongli with a hint of pity. This is a man's pain. Even though I haven't encountered such a situation yet, it doesn't stop Dada and Zhongli from having such a trace of compassion. It's okay. Zhongli shook his head slightly and said, it just took a little longer. I understand. Dadalia nodded repeatedly. It was really difficult to say this kind of thing. He understands. After hearing the report from his subordinates yesterday, Dadalia found Zhongli with Mu Yang's letter of recommendation, saying that he had something to ask Zhongli. Sure enough, after knowing their identities, the two got along relatively harmoniously. Mr. Zhongli is indeed the person the Queen likes. He knows a lot of things. It seems that there is nothing that Mr. Zhongli does not know. No wonder the Queen sent herself to find Zhongli. Seeing Dadalia like this, Zhongli sighed silently in his heart. There is no doubt about Dadalia's fighting ability. Apart from himself and the immortals, almost no one in Liyue was Dadalia's opponent. Of course, the current Keqing should be able to fight against Tiantian Liyue. Zhongli also believes that as long as Keqing and Ningguang are given time, they will grow up and make up for their lack of combat power. Fortunately, Liyue has a giant rock abyss, and the abyssal filth in it is almost endless. As long as Keqing and Ningguang think about it, they can also improve their strength by purifying the abyssal filth. Even Zhongli never thought that one day he would be lucky enough to have a giant abyss of rock inside. You know, when the disaster broke out 500 years ago, the situation in the Strata Abyss was the most serious. However, although this Dadalia is not very smart, he can still make use of it. He is a very interesting guy. He believed that after this incident, Liyue would become better and better. Next we have to look at Mondstadt. With the strength of Mu Yang and Barbatos, it is not a big problem to solve Mondstadt's dilemma. The key lies in how much benefit they can get from the Abyss Order. Moreover, I am still watching from the side, BCCF, thinking that nothing will happen. Dadalia, on the other hand, kept greeting Zhongli with constant greetings. After spending more than a day together, Dadalia recognized Zhongli very much and could even investigate the information about immortal Liyue. As expected of the golden spy arranged by the Queen in Liyue, if this plan succeeds, after returning to the Winter Kingdom, I must report to Her Majesty the Queen and recommend Zhongli to become the executive officer of the Fools. An outstanding talent like Mr. Zhongli should not be buried. That would be the loss of Zhaidong Kingdom. Fortunately, Zhongli and Bing Shen didn't know what Dadalia was thinking. If they knew, they wouldn't know how to describe such a smart guy like Dadalia. In the abyss, a fire element abyss mage knelt in front of Kong and reported, Your Highness, according to our intelligence, tens of thousands of Kaihokita people in Dadapa Valley have been wiped out. At the same time, the number of monsters that were raging in Mondstadt has been reduced by about 1/5. Oh? Is the God of Wind wearing a crown? Kong Vinian also became interested. If the God of Wind wears a crown, it is natural to do this. Sora will not underestimate Barbatos. According to the information he has obtained over the years, the Wind God may even be related to the ruler of time. Obviously, this seemingly weak God of Wind is not as simple as he appears. If he takes his power back, he probably won't be much weaker than Morux. He is not wearing a crown. Judging from the breath, he should have used the remaining energy. Judging from the display of the Seven Heavens statue, Barbatos is being polluted by the power of the Abyss at an accelerated rate. At this point, the face of the Abyss Mage showed up. Full of excitement. These people are all the remnants of Canria. I will never forget the scene when Tianli led the 7 gods to invade Camria and destroy Camria. It is true that they, Canria, have introduced the power of the Abyss, which has caused a lot of harm to the world, but aren't your laws of nature right? If it weren't for the laws of heaven that threatened them, if it weren't for the fact that other countries have gods but they don't have gods in Canria, in order to arm themselves, they must have their own strength. The power of the Abyss is the best way. It's just that this power is not easy to control. But now, they have the opportunity to pollute one of the 7 earthly rulers. How can the Abyss Master not be excited about this? Don't you 7 gods look down on the Abyss? So let's take a look at what it would be like for one of the 7 gods to fall into the Abyss. The 7 gods can be contaminated by the Abyss. Kong said firmly. Regarding the research on the power of the Abyss, he is obviously far above others. Although the power of the 7 gods is powerful, it is not as powerful as the power zone of the Abyss. Only the power of heaven can resist the Abyss. If Barbatos is allowed to fall into the Abyss, the battle between himself and the law of heaven will be even more certain. The matter with the Wind Demon Dragon will be slowed down for the time being. In a few days, we will control the Wind Demon Dragon to invade Mondstadt, try to draw Barbatos out, and then let him use his power to his heart's content. Then speed up the pollution of Barbatos. Kong hesitated for a while and said to the Abyss Mage, that Wolf should give up for the time being. 100 wolves are not as good as 1 Barbatos. Yes, we will bring you glory. The Abyss Mage licked his face and said, by the way, Your Highness, we found your blood relatives in Mondstadt. Ying. When he heard Ying's name, Kong's cold face showed a rare hint of gentleness. My stupid sister should be looking for herself anxiously at this time, right? She will have a great trip like herself, but the continent of Teyvat will ultimately be just a part of their journey. If the laws of nature are not resolved, they will be unable to leave the Teyvat continent. So, please work hard to become stronger and enjoy your journey. Brother, I will bear all the pressure for you. Chapter 69. Are we going to contact Her Highness the Princess? The Abyss Mage asked cautiously into the air. As a qualified BCH, he could obviously see that Sora was very concerned about his sister, and now even the title of her had changed. From the irrelevant title of your blood relative, it directly became Her Royal Highness the Princess. If you want to gain a position in the Abyss cult these days, it is very important to flatter others. Your Highness Princess. Kong glanced at the Abyss Mage with satisfaction. He was very satisfied with this title. He is the Prince of the Abyss Order, so he is the Princess. As long as he has it, Kong doesn't mind sharing it with her. After all, this is his dearest sister. This Abyss Mage is very discerning and he likes it very much. As for Ying, you don't need to pay too much attention. Her strength has not been restored yet, but she is not something ordinary people can fight against. Sora is still very confident about Ying's strength. As long as you don't face the gods, don't be chopped down by reckless gods like Thor, don't go to those messy places, and then pass out in a daze, then no one on the continent of Teyvat can hurt Ying. Watching the destruction of Mondstadt and the fall of Fengshen can also make Ying more aware of the cruelty of this world. Then go on a journey to find the missing power. Kong finished this sentence firmly. I was a little hesitant in my heart. My sister shouldn't be broken, right? What should we do if we crazily seek revenge from the Abyss from now on? You must know that in the Abyss, he is not his own, he is just the leader of the Abyss religion, and there are still many strong people in the Abyss. Forget it, as long as you are still here, no one can hurt you. I'd better pay a little more attention to myself in the future. Mu Yang, I have some good news for you. Wendy ran to Mu Yang excitedly at night and shouted loudly. Hey! Mu Yang looked at Wendy slightly suspiciously, wondering why this guy came here. Besides, why did you come to my room so late at night? Aren't you afraid that others will hear it? You won't talk about anything in the group. Mu Yang complained to Wendy helplessly. Hey, I still like to talk things face to face like this. Wendy scratched her head. After Qin and I look accumulated points, I eliminated all the Chukyu monsters in Dadapa Valley. And I also used the 1000-year movement to destroy a large number of monsters, and my points suddenly exceeded 1 million. I know this. Mu Yang's expression was a little subtle. Actually, what I want to tell you is that the points Morix earned from purifying the filth in the Abyss during this period exceed your number. His wear and tear is at least 1/10 was eliminated. 1/10 of the wear and tear. Wendy's pupil shrank. Originally, he thought that the speed at which he accumulated points was fast enough. If he was more cruel and not afraid that the Abyss cult would notice something was wrong, he could completely wipe out all the monsters in Mondstadt. In the end, I didn't expect that the old man would be so awesome. I'm afraid this is purifying the filth of the Abyss, right? However, with 1/10 of the wear and tear eliminated, the old man's combat power should have returned to the time of the Kenria War 500 years ago, right? Even worse than 500 years ago. Similarly, he can completely eliminate a lot of wear and tear, but Wendy has not yet figured out how to use this points. Eliminating wear and tear is a great option. His wear and tear is also very serious. Similarly, improving divine power seems to be very good. He dispersed his power. If he could increase part of his divine power, it would be a big improvement for himself. Of course, this still needs to wait until the war with the Abyss Order is over before starting. Now, he still needs those veterans of the Abyss Order to continuously provide him with the power of the Abyss. It's so irritating. No, I need to continue to eliminate some monsters, let them feel my anxiety, and absorb part of the Abyss breath. Wendy said gloomily. You don't need to be depressed. With your personality, you can't be like Morux, sitting in one place all the time absorbing the power of transforming the Abyss. Mu Yang spread his hands. You are also relatively lucky. If this is the case, there will be no chat group to help you transform the pollution of the Abyss. What are you going to do? Hey, the wind can actually purify the power of the Abyss, it just takes time. Wendy chuckled. However, I feel that I still need to get rid of some monsters. At least the monsters near Mondstadt must be cleared away, otherwise, when Teyvat invades, these monsters may take the opportunity to attack the city. Mond may not be able to bear it by then. After all, top combat powers like Diluc and Qin will definitely be keeping an eye on the Lawrence family. I just don't know what surprises Qin and Diluc can give others. There's no problem with that, as long as you disguise it better. Try to act as weak as possible. Mu Yang warned Wendy. I understand. Wendy nodded repeatedly, pretending to be weak. He's always good at it. He has been here like this for thousands of years. Therefore, he became the second oldest of the 7 gods. By the way, when are you going to invite Eula into the group? Wen then asked Mu Yang again. After this matter is over. Mu Yang shook his head slightly. The emotions and attitudes are always different with and without a chat group, right? Indeed, since I started the chat group, I am no longer afraid even if I face the Abyss. Wendy nodded slightly. What about Barbara? I think you have a pretty good relationship with her. Let's talk about this later. Barbara is not suitable for fighting, and her own personality is not suitable for fighting. The ability to chat in groups is currently dispensable to her. For now, the number of people in the chat group is also very limited. For the time being, I can't spread my power without limit. Mu Yang remembered what he had taught Barbara to sing during the day. One thing to say, getting along with Barbara is very pleasant and warm, and her sweet voice can really heal people's hearts. If you can make the other person cry and call daddy. Ahem, you can't think about it, you absolutely can't think about it, the other person is just a child under 14 years old. This is true. From now on, Inazuma's side will definitely attract a lot of people to join the group. After all, it would be difficult to purify the earth veins over there just by relying on Balzabul's words. Wendy nodded with deep understanding. For now, even if Teyvat makes trouble, Mondstadt's situation is already better than that of Ina wife. Please give me flowers. Although there is a sacred cherry tree to suppress evil spirits. But because of the resentment of the demon god Orobas and the long-term war, rice has reached a certain limit. Then you have to wait until the matter on your side is over first. Mu Yang spread his hands. Besides, I can't guarantee whether Balzabe will take action against me as soon as he sees me. For her, I should be an eternal exception, right? Well. Wendy fell into deep thought. Does Balzabul dare to draw his sword against Tianli? If it was the law of heaven before, I probably wouldn't dare. But now Mu Yang is really possible. Now let Mu Yang fight Lei Jianjia. It's hard to say who will win. However, Lei Jianjia is a real martial artist. After a long battle, it may be difficult for Mu Yang to win. So, there are some things that are not urgent for now, wait until I continue to become stronger. Mu Yang said that there are so many tool people working for him. He is getting stronger every day. Especially Zhongli, Mandrill, Ping Lao Lao and Wendy are all ministers who provide their own points. Wendy gained a lot of points for herself today. Zero Zhongli spends his days purifying the filth of the abyss in the layered rock abyss. Mandrill has now almost eliminated the resentment of the demon god from his body. In order to repay Mu Yang, he clears the resentment of the demon god in Liu every day. Regardless of this period of time, Liu's earth veins were also in chaos, and she had too many resentments against those demons. Nowadays, it is much easier for Mandrill to clear away the resentment of the demon god than before. Even the resentment of the demon god on Gui Laiwan's side was almost completely eliminated by Mandrill. Grandma Ping would occasionally clean up the filth in the abyss, which also brought a lot of points to Mu Yang. Regarding this group of hard-working tool workers, Mu Yang said that these guys are really good. It's a pity that Mondstadt doesn't have many high-end combat forces. Otherwise, they could be arranged to clean up the filth in the abyss. Well. Wendy glanced at Mu Yang, hesitated, and then asked, do you want my understanding and application of the wind element? If it is possible, of course it is, but what do you want? In order to obtain these abilities from Morux, I promise to spare the ice god's life in the future. Mu Yang looked at Wendy curiously. As the god of wind, Wendy's control over the wind element is naturally unparalleled. In the entire history of Teyvat, perhaps only DK Lapian can rival Wendy. However, the two should take two completely different paths. Lapian's wind is violent and will tear the opponent apart, but Wendy's wind is very gentle. Of course, during the battle, Wendy's wind will become very violent. So this is what the old man did. Wendy also showed a look of surprise when she heard this. He feels a little guilty about the ice god. After all, he had planned to use the ice god as a gunman before, but now he can't give the god's heart out. This is a bit deceptive. Fortunately, Mu Yang has agreed to Morux, and now he does not need to worry about the safety of the ice god. As for the life and death of the fools, what does it have to do with Barbados? He wished that the fools could die more. Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, okay, I love you, little 1. Chapter 70. Barbados didn't have a good impression of the fools either. For what the doctor had done to Mond, it was impossible for him to forgive the fools. If the people sent to Mondstadt from the Winter Kingdom were not ladies, even if there was a tacit understanding between him and the ice god, Wendy would consider just shooting these bastards to death. Where is the heart of God? Now that she knew there was no problem with the ice god's safety, Wendy no longer thought about the fools' problems. Hope they have a good journey. Then what do you want to exchange with me? Mu Yang asked, staring at Wendy. He doesn't like to owe favors very much. Mu Yang has already returned the favor from God's heart. Partly because of Raman's main force joining the group, and partly because he spared the lady's life. There is absolutely no need for Wendy to feel that she owes the lady. Mu Yang has already paid it back for Wendy. As for the future, Wendy, you will work for me honestly. Mondstadt actually has many abyssal nodes, even Musgrave nominally belongs to Mondstadt. If Wendy wants to earn points, there are plenty of local dramas. I want to ask about a possibility, whether it is possible for the demon god to be resurrected. Wendy looked at the location of the Wind Dragon ruins and asked softly. 143 Is the demon god resurrected? Mu Yang also fell into deep thought after hearing this. After a long time, he said, if the demon god still retains consciousness, it is not completely impossible for him to be resurrected. As long as you enter the chat group, you can recover through points. Just to recover, the points that need to be consumed are an astronomical number. Moreover, it is very difficult to gain points with just awareness. Unless there are special circumstances where points can be obtained, or points given to him by others as a big star. If I don't have consciousness, I don't know, at least for the time being, I can't do it. After all, my strength is still very weak. Is that so? Wendy nodded thoughtfully. Does it have to be conscious? I understand. This is my experience on the application of wind elements, which I have transmitted to you. After hearing this, Mu Yang also downloaded the information transmitted by Wendy, which was much more powerful than some of the moves he had randomly deduced before. Barbados, the god of wind, is indeed worthy of his name. In this way, some skills can be derived by themselves. Strange knowledge has been added. Then I'll leave first. I have to go to Mr. Diluc's place for a drink. I can't miss the free wine. It makes me feel bad to miss a day, and then I have to clear out some monsters. These days, I feel more tired than I have in the past few hundred years. Wendy complained helplessly. After all, you have been sleeping for the past hundreds of years. Mu Yang was also speechless. Does Wendy have the right to say that she has been tired for the past few hundred years? But considering that this guy has been really busy in the past few days, he won't complain too much. The next day, when Mu Yang got up and walked out of the room, he found that not only Barbara was waiting for him in the living room, but Mercury, Paimon, Qin, and Yura were also waiting here. In addition, there are 3 people who are both familiar and unfamiliar to Mu Yang, Lisa, Kelly, and Albedo. Why are you here so early in the morning? Mu Yang found a place to sit down and looked at Albedo and Kelly. I didn't expect to see Kelly and the others in Vinyang's state. Mu Yang, you should be familiar with these people, so I won't introduce them further. Qin glanced at Kelly. In fact, she didn't want to bring Kelly with her at first. After all, this is just a child, and Keqing is making noises to come, but Qin doesn't have much to do. Well, Rose Witch Lisa, Spark Knight Kelly, and Mu Yang cast his sights on Albedo. There is also a golden creation, the son of Chalk, Albedo. Looking at Mu Yang, Albedo's eyes flickered slightly. For some reason, he felt very uncomfortable in front of Mu Yang. There was even a tendency that his own power was uncontrollable. Combined with what had happened to him before, Albedo also began to doubt at this time, could the other party be a god? Hello, brother Mu Yang, I'm Kelly. Kelly jumped up to Mu Yang and greeted Mu Yang. I know you, Spark Knight. You are as cute as the rumors. Looking at Kelly's healing smile like the sun, Mu Yang felt warm in her heart. Such a little loli, even if she is naughty, is still quite cute. Yes. Moreover, Kelly may have any bad intentions, but they are just playing with a few bombs, not just causing some financial and terrain losses. Little Sun is very well behaved and has never hurt anyone. Is that so? It turns out Kelly is so famous. Kelly said excitedly, blinking her eyes. Well, after this matter is over, you are welcome to come to Liu, and my brother will take you to fry the big lizard. Mu Yang touched Kelly's head and said softly. Facing a cutie like Kelly, all the worries of the day will disappear immediately. Wow, big fried lizard. Kelly looked at Mu Yang with bright eyes. She also secretly went to Liu to fry the big lizard before, fearing that Captain Qin would find out. If it were this big brother, Captain Qin wouldn't refuse, right? Kelly looked at Qin expectantly. Seeing this, Qin also smiled bitterly. Kelly, if you want to go to Liu, you can follow Mu Yang to Liu for a while, but you can't do anything random and cause trouble to Mr. Mu Yang. Kelly understands. We set up bombs in the city to report to the solitary confinement room. Bombs injured people and Qin came to the door. We set fire to the mountain. Kelly is finished. Kelly nodded repeatedly and could go to Liu in an open and above-board manner. This was really great. Moreover, Captain Qin refused to let himself go out these days. If Qin hadn't asked her to make special bombs these days, Kelly would have been bored to death. But having said that, it seems that there are more than just a few senior members of the Knights of the West Wind, right? Where are Kaya and Amber? Mu Yang asked curiously. It seems like Mu Yang has never seen Kaya and Amber after coming to Mondstadt for so many days. It's impossible for these 2 people not to have entered Qin's circle. Although Amber, the Scout Knight, is a little tired, Amber is the only Scout Knight left. But Amber is also considered Qin's confidant. The same goes for Kaya, the cavalry captain. Why the cavalry captain has no horses is open to question. The opponent usually likes to fish in the water, but Kaya is conscientious at critical moments. Amber and Kaya are patrolling the city defenses now. Speaking of Kaya, a trace of embarrassment flashed across Qin's face. There is no way, this guy Kaya is really a bit deceitful. Damn it, I look were working their butts off outside, but that guy Kaya ended up drinking for a whole day inside Angel's Gift. At this time, Qin didn't know what to say. If there was no one available now, she would have wanted to capture Kaya. As for Amber, she is really investigating and has no time to come over. Is that so? Mu Yang nodded thoughtfully, but didn't care. He was still somewhat interested in Amber, but it wasn't that he was greedy for her body. Amber couldn't get enough of him. But he was interested in Amber, the traveler's first friend. After all, Amber was really good to the traveler. She was the first to treat him to dinner, send him flying tools, and help him find tools. But after Amber joined the team, Amber was just a tool, playing the role of decryption at the beginning, and after having more partners later, Amber also directly ate them. There are really too many wives. Mu Yang turned to Albedo and said, Mr. Albedo should know about Liu. What do you think? Albedo also fell into silence after hearing this. It seemed that Qin had sold him before. Of course, he only sold it for a few years. Liu seemed to want him to do research. Albedo actually didn't care about this. For an immortal like him, a few years was just the blink of an eye. Just something. However, he still asked, "Can I ask, what research do you want to do?" "Of course it's possible. You should have some impression of the thing we want you to develop, which is somewhat similar to Miss Alice's Dodo communicator. It's called a mobile phone." Mu Yang briefly told Abedo a synopsis of Ichiban Mobile. This also made Qin and others' eyes couldn't help but light up. It seems like this works. Especially Qin, although they have a chat group that they can use, the only people they can contact through the chat 5.4 group are only the people in the group. But if such a mobile phone could be developed, it would be of great help to them. It's just that the research results will belong to Liu at that time. After all, Ning Guang and the others paid for the research, while Albedo had lent it out before. This is embarrassing. Qin feels that she needs to discuss this matter with Ning Guang later, and they also need mobile phones. Although there is no patent right in this world, if Albedo gives these things to Mond after helping others research a topic, then this is against industry rules. Abedo himself would not do this. Readers may have noticed that it is actually updated once every 3,000 words. When the author first wrote the book, he actually liked to update every 2,000 words. Later, it became 1,600 words. Last year, it became 1,600 words. 100 words. Books in the past were updated 5 times a day and 6 times a day, which is about 10,000 to 12,000 words. Nowadays, it is popular to update every 3,000 words, and the author also works hard to update. After being put on the shelves, he keeps updating 3 times every day, which feels good. If you update 4 times, the number of words has not been reduced. If you don't like it, the author can go back to one update of 2,000 words and pretend that he has updated a lot. Chapter 71. Life in Mondstadt is not very easy right now. Mondstadt is not a very economically developed country. It can only be said that the natural environment is very good. Depending on God's food, even if you don't work very hard, you can still solve the problem of food and clothing. The expedition of the Knights of the Westwind consumed a lot of Mondstadt's financial and material resources. Now the monsters have occupied most of the areas outside Mondstadt, and subsequent reconstruction work will also require a large amount of mora. How about continuing to loan Abedo to Liu in the future in exchange for some benefits? Oh, by the way, for reconstruction work, you may also need to borrow some money and supplies from Xiangguang. There is no way, Mondstadt lacks mora now. Qin also knows that friends are friends, and some things still have to be settled. Moreover, when he borrows money in Mon's name, not his personal name. We can only hope that Abedo will be worth more. It's a very interesting idea. I accept this topic. Abedo did not refuse Mu Yang's proposal. On the one hand, it was really hard for him to refuse Qin's arrangement. After all, Qin had been pretty good to them over the years, and he also wanted to help Qin and Mond. On the other hand, this subject makes Albedo very satisfied. Moreover, this is a subject for Ning Guang, so there will be no shortage of mora. Yet. Mu Yang nodded slightly, and then he said meaningfully, "Work hard, as long as you work hard, your identity is not a problem." Abedo frowned when he heard this. He didn't know why, but he felt that there was something wrong in Mu Yang's words 12. It seemed like he was hinting something to himself. My identity? Could it be a matter of gold? He also knew how hated Riandot was. Most people may not know about Riandot, but if the 7 gods know that they are related to Riandot, there is no guarantee that they will not take action against them. Is this telling myself that the rock god Morix will not take action against him? This is good news. Although Abedo also believes that his strength is not weak, if he faces the rock god, Abedo feels that even if he is strengthened several times, he will not be Morix's opponent. But what he didn't know was that this was not about Morix. In Mu Yang's view, Abedo should just be a tool man. As long as he doesn't study messy things like Riandot, Mu Yang can give him some protection. As for Golden Riandot himself, it is absolutely impossible for Mu Yang to let him go, that is, he is a madman. Even if he might provoke the witch club, Keqing would not be polite. Mrs. Alice, you don't want to see Kelly feeling uncomfortable for you, do you? Would they really risk their lives for a Riandot? Mu Yang doesn't think so. As for giving Riandot a chance to undergo labor reform? Mu Yang has no such idea. It is true that Riandot is very powerful. Wouldn't it be better if he could let Riandot work for him? After all, although Riandot fell into the abyss, Mu Yang can solve the pollution of the abyss for her. Sorry, Mu Yang doesn't like to see any redemption drama, unless Raiden can really come up with something that Mu Yang can't refuse. At this time, the reason why Leto disappeared was that he had already regained his clarity and was studying the method of the inch abyss. This is not scientific at all. If Raiden can really develop a potion to purify the abyss, then Mu Yang has really been taking Raiden for a long time. By the way, why did you come here like this? Do you want to make an introduction for me? After the business was settled, Mu Yang also asked Qin. Yura and I discussed the matter of the Lawrence family and found that it might really be the last resort. Qin glanced at Yura, who was looking a little sad, smiled bitterly and said, "We will also cooperate with Lawrence in the future. The family takes precautions. Once there is an invasion by the Abyss Order, we will fight back. But I still hope that if there is an opponent that we cannot fight against, Mr. Yang, you can take action." Mu Yang nodded slightly when he heard this, feeling that he was here to ask for help. Qin was also embarrassed for a while. "She and I look are actually very good now. In Barbato's words, they are now as strong as the Fool's executives. After we clear out some of the monsters today, they may not be any worse than the ladies. But no one knows how many monsters there are in the abyss. If some extremely powerful monsters appear by then, it will be difficult. If they are unable to defeat these monsters and Mondstadt suffers huge casualties, then, let alone promoting reforms, Qin will hang herself on the wall of Mondstadt as an apology. Help Mondstadt against the Abyss cult." Mu Yang chuckled. "Is this considered working for Mondstadt? But that's not right. It seems that dealing with the Abyss cult is his duty, even his obligation. On the continent of Teyvat, there is a tradition of God-loving people. Mu Yang will not love people without restraint, but he does seem to have a duty to deal with the Abyss. This is also the obligation he needs to bear when he becomes Tianli. Although I don't know how to repay you, I can personally guarantee that if Mr. Mu Yang needs to come to my place in the future, as long as I don't hurt Mond, I will fight for you until the last moment," Qin said in a tone of voice. He said firmly to Mu Yang. "Me too." Eula clenched her fists. "After all, this incident happened because of those bastards. I hope you can help. If he wants you to commit yourself to him, don't you have to agree too?" At this time, Ying couldn't help but murmured. This moment made Qin and Eula blush. This matter does not seem to be impossible. If they have to choose between individuals and Mond, they will naturally choose Mond. But you can't tell me either. How embarrassing is this? Eula took a deep breath and said, "If this is Mu Yang's request, I am also willing." "Forget it." Mu Yang covered his forehead. "If this continues, who knows, you will think of me as a big pervert." After saying that, he glared at Ying fiercely. Mu Yang originally planned to tell Ying the information about Kong, but he didn't expect that Ying would do this to him. "Very good. There is no more empty information, and you will not be included in the chat group for the time being. Just continue to be a tool man in a daze. Anyway, I won't serve you here anymore. Resisting the abyss itself is my duty, you don't need to worry about this." Mu Yang said helplessly. "However, you also need to be fully prepared. This is just a preview. The war between Mondstadt, the entire Teyvat continent, and the abyss has just begun. Is a disaster like the one 500 years ago coming again?" Lisa's thoughts moved and she quickly asked Mu Yang. She obviously knows much more than Li and others. Knowing that thing is not only related to Kenria, but also related to the abyss. If that is really the case, they also need to prepare for war. The abyss and the continent of Teyvat have an everlasting relationship. The reason why you don't know these things is just that there are people in corners you don't know, carrying the burden forward. Mu Yang thought of feigns. There is no doubt that this is a big shot. At least the other party's strength is far superior to the 7 gods. But even he has fallen now. If he hadn't become the law of heaven, if he hadn't had the ability to purify the abyss and strengthen himself, Mu Yang would have long been thinking about how to leave this world and go to other worlds. It's not that Mu Yang has no sense of responsibility, but the abyss is really too scary. 083 When the others heard Mu Yang's words, they all looked thoughtful. Perhaps what they know is indeed too little. At this time, Qin couldn't wait to change zones. "When I traveled to other worlds, I also witnessed many worlds being submerged by the abyss." At this time, Ying also said appropriately, "Now that the continent of Teyvat has been invaded by the abyss, you need to be careful in the future." "Is that so? I understand. It seems that we need to work harder. I don't want to become a Kaihokiya person in the future. Lisa said helplessly, stroking her cheek. Ah? Become a Kaihokiya person? Kelly doesn't want to become a Kaihokiya person. Kelly was also panicked when she heard this. Don't worry, Hui Li won't become a Kaihokiya. Brother, I promise. Mu Yang comforted Kelly while stroking her head. There are currently divergent opinions on the origin of the Kaihokiya people. Some people say that the people of Kaihokiya were transformed by the people of Kenriya and were cursed by heaven. In this regard, Mu Yang said that this is an absolute rumor. The records of the Kaihokiya people appearing on the Teyvat continent are more than 1,000 years old. Thousands of years ago, why did heaven curse Kenriya? Some people say that this is a manifestation of being eroded by the abyss. Many people who were exposed to the power of the abyss gradually turned into various monsters. For example, the monsters in the layered rock abyss, or the two people who appeared in the plot of Fontaine. However, Mu Yang can guarantee that as Tian Li, he does not have the ability to curse others to become Kaihokiya people. Monsters like the Abyss Chanter should be the embodiment of the effect of the abyss. As for the Kaihokiya people, it should be the product of a mixture of various forces from the abyss, the earth, and the heavens. When the time comes, traveler, the virus on Teyvat may need your help to purify it. Then, Qin said sincerely to Ying again. D. Chapter 72. Me? Teyvat, are you talking about the wind demon dragon? But I don't know how to detoxify it. Ying's face turned pale when he heard this, and he waved his hands repeatedly. No, you can. Lord Barbatos will help you contain Teyvat when the time comes. Lord Barbatos told us that you can solve Teyvat's pain. After this matter is over, Lord Barbatos is willing to have a chat with you. Qin stared at Ying and said. Ying immediately fell silent upon hearing this. Do you have such ability? Why don't you know? But Feng Shen said that he has the ability to purify, so he shouldn't be making fun of himself. Is it possible that he has such a role? Sister, is Lord Barbatos awake? Barbara also asked Qin quickly at this time. Qin glanced at her sister, nodded slightly and said, Lord Barbatos has woken up and has begun to eliminate monsters in the wild. The largest gathering place for monsters in Mondstadt, the monsters in Dadapa Valley have been eliminated by Lord Barbatos. As expected of Master Feng Shen. Barbara knew that Master Feng Shen was invincible. Barbara naturally knew where Dadapa Valley was. After hearing this, she felt that it was natural. Isn't it a very simple matter for the great power of Barbatos to eliminate the monsters in a mere Dadapa Valley? Even if 10 more Dadapa Valleys come, it will only happen in the blink of an eye. Wendy, no, I can't do it, don't talk nonsense. If that's the case, I'm willing to give it a try. After Ying's expression changed, she nodded in agreement. Although this is very dangerous, Ying is still willing to try it. This person is a god of wind, so he probably won't come to play with him. Time passed very quickly, and very quickly, another 2 days passed. In the past 2 days, Mu Yang could clearly feel that Barbara's enthusiasm for him seemed to be getting more and more intense. Even her own clothes, Barbara took the initiative to clean them for her, which made Mu Yang couldn't help but sigh, this girl really has the potential to be a good wife and mother. In the past 2 days, Mu Yang also took Barbara and Kelly to the outside of Mondstadt from time to time. This made little Sun, who had been locked up in Mondstadt City for the past month, extremely happy. Despite her strong strength, Keqing still treated Kelly as a child and was unwilling to let Kelly perform any tasks. She was worried that Kelly will be in danger outside. But Mu Yang was different. He took Kelly directly to a place with more monsters in the wild. As long as Kelly wants to, just blow it up. Of course, Kelly can't use bombs that are too powerful. Otherwise, the residents of Mondstadt may have to face a whole-pitted Mondstadt in the future. And with Mu Yang's protection, Qin didn't need to worry about Kelly's safety, but it allowed Kelly to have a good time. Finally, the war concerning the fate of Mongolia is about to begin. Wendy, Qin, you can start getting ready. The wind tells me that Teyvat has left the Wind Dragon ruins and is heading towards Mondstadt. Qin, phew. Even though I'm well prepared, I can't help but feel nervous now. Look, just do your own thing well. We are no longer the same people we were before. Now that there is a way to become stronger, Look is not willing to let it go. In fact, not only did he go out with Wendy to gain experience, Look also discovered some special ways to become stronger. Like the evil eye. This thing is very dangerous and can even cause irreparable damage to the user, but with the chat group, all Diluc's hidden dangers have been cured. He had snatched 2 evil eyes from the fools before and found that the purification ability of the chat group was also very effective against evil eyes. Moreover, the energy contained in evil eyes was very valuable. Almost every evil eye was worth thousands of points. This also prepared Diluc, who was going to issue an eye hunting order to hunt the evil eyes of fools. Ningguang, it's a pity that we can't come, otherwise, we can help. I knew before that the 7 stars and 8 sects and those families were very messy, but I didn't expect that the actual situation was worse than imagined. Keqing, those guys deserve to die, they are simply blood-sucking insects, sucking Liu's blood. If I were not afraid of having too bad impact, I would hang them all on street lamps. Mu Yang, after all, Liu has been established for too long. Without external stimulation, class solidification is a normal thing. Just like the world before me, those dynasties would hardly last more than 300 years. After that we need to change the dynasty and reshuffle the cards. Ningguang, that approach is not realistic in Liu, but we are already thinking of a way. But I don't know if I can see Yu Yang taking action with all your strength this time. Mu Yang, do you want to go all out? I don't know what kind of opponent will appear this time. Keqing, hey, don't be too proud. It would be bad if you overturn. Zhongli, based on universal rationality, under normal circumstances, the cooperation between Mu Yang and Feng Shen is enough to solve this dilemma. Mu Yang, by the way, Qin, don't you plan to use Kelly's bombs in actual combat? The Abyss is about to open passages to invade Mondstadt, and we can definitely blow those bombs back through those passages. Qin, please don't say that, it may put Kelly in crisis. Kelly currently does not have the ability to withstand the revenge of the Abyss. Isn't Qin's heart moved? It must be. If Kelly's bombs can reach the headquarters of the Abyss religion, they will definitely cause huge losses to the Abyss religion, but what happens next? Kelly is likely to become a thorn in the side of the Abyss order. Therefore, Qin gave up this tempting idea. How are the preparations going? Standing on the roof of the West Wind Church, Mu Yang asked Wendy with his arms folded. Wendy smiled, actually, I don't need anything special to prepare. At that time, just pretend that you are weak and contaminated by the power of the Abyss. I'm very good at this. I just don't know how long the people of the Abyss religion will work hard in the future. That's a steady stream of points. Unfortunately, the other party is obviously not a fool. If it goes too far, Wendy will be exposed in the future, and even many people will be targeted by the Abyss cult. After all, the ability to purify the Abyss is a huge threat to them. As long as I win the third heart of God, the threat to me from the Abyss cult will be reduced a lot. Mu Yang said confidently. Because of the efforts of several tool workers, Mu Yang is getting fishy all the time. When he first got the second heart of God, Mu Yang felt that he might not be as good as Barbatos in his heyday. But it's different now. He felt that even if he was not as good as Morux, he would not be worse than Barbatos. As long as he gets another heart of God, he might be stronger than Morux, but it's not impossible. Thinking of this, Mu Yang also had more expectations in her heart. Moreover, Mu Yang already had enough chips to get the Thunder God's heart from the fox. Wendy nodded slightly when she heard this. Wendy was also very confident about Mu Yang's growth rate. He also knew that everyone was actually working for Mu Yang, but Wendy didn't care. She just got the benefits and Mond got the benefits. Moreover, Mu Yang really needs to become stronger as soon as possible, so that it is best for the continent of Teyvat. As for what the group said before about letting Mu Yang use all his strength, Wendy didn't dare. If Mu Yang really used all his strength, the whole of Mondstadt would be destroyed. Coming. Suddenly, Wendy's expression changed and she looked to the northwest. I saw a black dot, rushing towards Mondstadt at an extremely fast speed from a distance. As the black spot gradually enlarged, the surrounding wind also changed dramatically, and strong winds began to blow throughout Mondstadt. How is this going? The Wind Demon Dragon is here. It's over. The Wind Demon Dragon is attacking the city. Captain Qin, you must save us. The appearance of the strong wind was quickly noticed by the people of Mondstadt. At this moment, they began to panic, and they didn't even care about the wine bottles on hand. Some people even showed signs of despair. The Wind Demon Dragon seems to be extremely powerful. Is Captain Qin really its opponent? Lord Barbatos, where are you? Come and save your devout believers. Get rid of the evil wind demon dragon. Mond was thrown into chaos almost instantly. The fools at the city gate were also confused at this moment. They did not expect that the wind demon dragon would attack the city at this time. If it were normal times, they would naturally not be afraid of the wind demon dragon. With the lady here, let alone the wind demon dragon, even if the wind god Barbados comes, they believe that the lady can solve it. After all, the Feng Shen mentioned by the lady is so weak, far inferior to the queen. It was as if the lady could defeat the wind god with just one slap. But now the lady is sealed by petrification. What are they going to do? If you run away at this time and the lady's stone statue is damaged, when the people above investigate thoroughly, they will all be dead. Why don't you run away? They seem to be no match for the wind demon dragon. Ying, are you sure you want to fight this big guy? Peiman asked, trembling as he stared at the wind demon dragon getting closer and closer. Chapter 73. Ying stared at the direction Teyvat was flying from and couldn't help but swallowed. It shouldn't be a big problem. Well, if she were in her prime, she should be able to kick Teyvat away. It's ridiculous that a little wind dragon dares to do whatever he wants. But now, the situation seems to be a little different. With your current physical condition, the other party should be unable to kill you. But this wind demon dragon is so big. If we take this bite, we will all be eaten into our stomachs. Paimon said tremblingly. 11. Why don't you go and eat the wind demon dragon? Ying has great trust in Paimon's appetite. With such a foodie's appetite, if the wind demon dragon can eat it, Paimon will probably encourage him to kill Teyvat. But what else can we do now? We have taken all the benefits. Ying gritted her teeth and looked around. There were Mondstadt residents escaping in a hurry everywhere, and, at this time, if we escape, what will these people do? Don't be afraid. I will help you. At this time, a familiar voice sounded in Ying and Paimon's ears. The two people looked around quickly and found a man in white divine clothing reaching out to them. Traveler, can you please give me a helping hand? Ying, don't you think this voice is familiar to this person? Paimon whispered in Ying's ear. 11. Ying glanced at Paiman speechlessly. Isn't this the Wendy who came to see Mu Yang that day? Although the other party seemed a little different and seemed to have made some cover-ups, Ying said that it was absolutely impossible for him to admit his mistake. Emotional Wendy is the wind god Barbados, but that guy Mu Yang hides it so well. That BD, he clearly knew that he was looking for God, but he refused to tell him the information about Feng Shen. He even thought that he would be one of his own. Mu Yang this BD. Moreover, he tricked himself into fighting against the wind demon dragon. When this matter is over, I must take revenge and go back. Get ready. I will use the 1,000-year wind to send you high into the sky. As Wendy's words fell, a wind field rose around Ying, dragging both Ying and Paimon up. Ying quickly opened her wings of wind, which was a gift given to her by her good friend Amber, whom she just met some time ago. This thing is really useful and makes it a lot more convenient when traveling. With the help of the wings of wind, Ying successfully floated in the air. This scene also attracted the attention of many people. Some people even started cheering for her, thinking that she was going to go straight to FK Teyvat head-on. After all, facing the wind demon dragon, most people would not dare to open their wings of wind. This girl is really brave. But before they could cheer for him, Barbados' figure also flew into the sky. This scene directly made the whole of Mondstadt excited. My Lord Barbados, he finally appeared. Lord Barbados, have you finally remembered your devout believer? Let me just say, in critical moments like this, Lord Barbados will always appear when we need him most. Lord Barbados has always been silently guarding Mondstadt. Come on Lord Barbados, kill the wind demon dragon. With the appearance of Barbados, the residents of Mondstadt did not run away and gave Barbados the most pious cheers. Psek, just kidding, the adults are all here. Isn't it easy to catch the wind demon dragon? Is it possible that it can still fight against Lord Barbados? Traveler, next I will hold Teyvat down outside the city, and then control the flowing wind to send you to Teyvat's back. As long as you destroy the stinger behind it and purify it with your special constitution, Teyvat's condition will be restored. Please. Wendy said to Ying with a serious expression. Okay. Ying did not refuse. It seems that this guy Wendy is not completely making fun of herself. Since you want something from yourself, you should say it earlier. Why beat around the bush? Do you really think that you are not willing to help? Wendy took a deep breath, her two braids emitted a green light, and then flew towards the location of Teyvat. It's just that the aura erupting from his body at this moment is only higher than Teyvat, but it's not much stronger. Barbados. Seeing Wendy blocking him, Teyvat spit out a wind bomb at Wendy without hesitation. At this moment, behind Wendy is Mondstadt. If he dodges at this time, then it will be Mondstadt who needs to withstand this wind bomb. Wendy didn't dare to hide away, otherwise, she would suffer heavy losses, and it would also cause a complete break between Mondstadt and Teyvat, and let the seeds of hatred be planted. By then, even if Teyvat recovers, it will probably feel guilty. I saw Wendy taking out a harp, and as he played the strings, bursts of breeze were ejected by Wendy and met Teyvat's wind bullets. The two dispersed at the touch of each other, and flew into the air. It exploded. This is not a place for you to get angry. Wendy controlled the wind field and ran towards the distance. At this time, why does Teyvat care about Mondstadt? Killing Barbados is the most important thing. Can even a gentle breeze destroy such a terrifying wind bomb? As expected of you, Barbados. Mu Yang murmured as he watched Wendy leave. On the surface, those breezes are definitely not as good as Teyvat's wind bombs that are full of high-density wind element power, but Wendy still managed to do this. It can be seen from this that Barbados is a master at controlling the wind. There is a posture of lifting 1,000 pounds with 4 ounces. Let's follow too. Ying told Paimon, and then with the help of Feng Chong, he flew towards the battlefield of Teyvat and Wendy. On the other side, on a cliff at least 10 kilometers away from Mondstadt, Abyss Mage and Kong were silently watching the battle between Wendy and Teyvat. Your Highness the Princess, it seems that you are also involved. Abyss Mage reported with some trepidation. There was no other way, as a loyal BCH, he also discovered that His Royal Highness was actually a sister-in-law. If Her Royal Highness the Princess bumps into each other during the battle, then those of them who planned this operation will all be dead by then, right? It's okay, just Teyvat won't hurt Ying. Kong snorted lightly, his words full of disdain for Teyvat. From Sora's point of view, Teyvat can be used as a war weapon at most, but if it wants to participate in high-level battles, it is simply a dream. Such a dragon cannot hurt Ying's body. He also saw that Barbados was trying to use the light to purify the power of the abyss in Teyvat's body, but he didn't care. Just Teyvat, once it recovers, it will recover. At this time, the longer Barbados fights, the more beneficial it will be to their Abyss Order plan. Teyvat is worthy of being used as bait. You see, because of Teyvat, Barbados didn't dare to use all his power for fear of hurting Teyvat, but the more such a battle, the more Barbados was affected by the Abyss. Wind God, you will eventually fall into the Abyss. It's almost time to cause civil strife in Mondstadt and let Barbados feel the pain of the destruction of his country. Kong said coldly to the Abyss Mage beside him. Yes, your loyal subordinates will bring you a new victory. The Abyss Mage said piously. In the city of Mondstadt, the homeland of the Lawrence family, it has a large area and looks luxurious on the outside, but the inside is dilapidated. Today's Lawrence family can only maintain a glamorous appearance on the surface, but their actual life is far inferior to that of other so-called nobles, or even ordinary people. It's not that they can't give up their identity because of their work. But even if they want to work, the jobs in Mondstadt won't accept them. To a certain extent, the Lawrence family was actually forced to the point of desperation. Of course, it is not completely impossible. In fact, they can also go to other countries to live again. Vanessa is from Nahida, and Amber's grandfather is also from Liu. If the Lawrence family is willing to leave Mondstadt and start over, there is no problem. In fact, many people do leave. But those who stay here still refuse to give up. Master, do we really want to do this? At this time, those who were following Schubert also began to panic. That's Lord Barbados. Humph, now that things have happened, do you think we still have a chance to regret it? Schubert snorted coldly, isn't it Barbados' fault that we are like this now? If he hadn't supported Vanessa, how could our Lawrence family have been overthrown, and we wouldn't have been reduced to this? This is all Barbados' fault, he betrayed us first. Listening to Schubert's words, everyone fell silent. Yes, if it weren't for Barbados, the Lawrence family would still be in control of Mondstadt. Why should he be their god? Moreover, haven't you seen it? Barbados is not as powerful as you thought. He can't even defeat the Wind Demon Dragon. As long as the people from the Abyss religion come, Barbados will definitely be defeated. Then, Schubert said in a crazy voice, "This is the last chance for our Lawrence family." Chapter 74. Everyone, it's not that we abandoned Mondstadt, it's that Mondstadt abandoned our Lawrence family. They didn't want us to live at all. All for Lawrence. Schubert shouted loudly, raising his arms. Everything is for Lawrence. The remaining Lawrence members also echoed. Most of them actually shouted loudly. They have had enough of their current life, even though they know that this may bring huge trouble to the Lawrence family and even Mondstadt. But they have no choice. Staying in Mondstadt is also a slow death. Boom. At this moment, the door was kicked open, and a big white leg stepped into the room. Everyone turned their heads to look, and found Eula with a livid face, holding Matsushita's hand and walking step by step. Entering the room, he walked step by step towards Schubert's position. Everyone couldn't help but swallowed when they saw the sound of Matsuri in Eula's hand. There was no other way. The reputation of this sword was too great. It was also the heirloom sword of the Lawrence family. Yura is also the first person to be recognized by Matsuri Shoto in the past hundreds of years. Not only because of the seal of solid ice, but also because of this big sword, Yura has a very special status in the Lawrence family. What is the purpose of Eula coming here at this time? What do you want to do? Yura glanced at everyone present, and finally focused on Schubert and said coldly. Yura, since you have discovered it, then stay and welcome the arrival of the Abyss with us. As long as Abyss defeats Fengshen, then Mondstadt will be ours. Aren't you always competing with Qin? From now on, Qin's position will be yours. Schubert saw a trace of panic flashing in his eyes when he saw Eula arriving, but he quickly said with a straight face. Qin's position? Are you cooperating with Abyss? Don't you know that once this matter spreads, let alone Mondstadt, there will be no place for Lawrence in the entire Teyvat continent? Yura sighed lightly, in order to allow the Lawrence family to survive, I can only use my own methods. What do you want to do? Seeing Eula like this, Schubert was also panicked. Schubert is very confident about the Abyss Order. The current Mondstadt cannot possibly be the opponent of the Abyss Order. But facing Eula like this, Schubert is also very confident. There are so many of them, and they are not enough for Eula. Yura is considered to be the most outstanding member of the Lawrence family for hundreds of years. Only by getting rid of you people, can the Lawrence family continue to survive. Yola lowered her head, took a deep breath and said coldly, the Lawrence family needs to be reborn. That's nonsense, you're crazy. Schubert was shocked when he heard this. He never thought that Yura would say such words. If Eula takes action, will he still have a way to survive? Then Eula quickly proved her determination. When she waved Matsuri, she prioritized attacking a young man from the Lawrence family next to her. Of course, this is also optional. The other party is an extremist, and his strength is pretty good. If he does not deal with the other party as soon as possible, he may cause a lot of trouble to himself in the future. How could that young man be Yura's opponent? He didn't even take out his weapon, and was immediately beheaded by Eula. This scene shocked everyone present. Yola is crazy. She really dares to kill people. But why is this? Obviously they are the real relatives, and Yola is also the one rejected by Mondstadt. Why at this time, Yura chooses to side with Mondstadt, and even does not hesitate to attack her own people? Could it be that she has been brainwashed? Is it a success? At this time, Schubert had no intention of thinking about Eula's thoughts. He directly turned on the machine next to him. A large amount of earth energy was drained away, and a space channel appeared beside Schubert. This scene made Eula sigh lightly, what should come is still coming. She originally had a chance to stop Schubert, but because of Fengshen's plan, she had no choice but to do so. It's just that the reputation of the Lawrence family will be completely ruined, but with the support of the wind god Barbatos, Lawrence will regain its glory in the future. As for how those tribesmen would hate her, Eula couldn't control it anymore. Right is right and wrong is wrong. These people have made a big mistake. It is absolutely impossible to survive. Killing them by myself, a member of the Lawrence family, can be regarded as giving them the last dignity. As the space wormhole was opened, an abyssal apostle walked out of it first. Your Excellency, the great apostle of the Abyss, you are finally here. Seeing the arrival of the apostle of the Abyss, Schubert also breathed a sigh of relief. Although Eula's strength is strong, this apostle of the Abyss is also an elite member of the Abyss religion. The strength between the two parties is probably about the same. And behind the Abyss apostles, there is an almost endless stream of monsters from the Abyss religion. The advantage this time lies with you. Schubert, you are too slow. Your Highness, the Prince, is impatient to wait. The Apostle of the Abyss glanced at Schubert and said coldly with a trace of disgust in his eyes. Even monsters in the Abyss like them are full of contempt for people like Schubert. Before, he had to hide something. But now Schubert has no use value, the door of space has been opened. This. Schubert looked at the Apostle of the Abyss dumbfounded. The other party had been kind to him before. Why did the other party talk about me like this when I opened the door to space? They are partners? You have lost your use value. Yora said coldly when she saw this scene. Nonsense, I have a good cooperative relationship with the Abyss Order, and we will replace the Abyss Order in managing Mondstadt in the future. Yura, stop sowing discord. Schubert pointed at Yura angrily and yelled. Only this time, Eula didn't even want to pay attention to Schubert, and just looked at the Apostle of the Abyss with a serious expression. The Apostle of the Abyss, Eula had only seen it in the books of the Knights before. When she saw it for the first time, even she felt a little bit of pressure. How about leaving it to me? At this time, Diluc also walked in from the outside holding a big sword, and said coldly as he walked. Can you do that? Yola frowned. She still knew Diluc's strength very well. Please give me flowers. At the same level as himself and Qin, even if he is strong, his strength is limited. This Apostle of the Abyss made Eula feel a lot of pressure. Diluc glanced at the Apostle of the Abyss and said indifferently, he is from water, I can easily solve it. You seem to be very confident in yourself. The Apostle of the Abyss laughed angrily when he heard Diluc's words, can you really crush them like dirt? However, now is not the time for him to show off. Following his call, a steady stream of Abyss mages and Kaihokia people rushed out of the wormhole. Humph! Diluc snorted coldly when he saw this, and rushed forward with the end of the wolf in hand. The flaming sword could take away at least one enemy with almost every swing. Eula's eyelids couldn't help but twitch when she saw this scene. As someone who also uses a big sword, Eula naturally knows how much the big sword consumes the user. But what's going on with Diluc? Using a big sword is as easy as using a one-handed sword. Is this really using a big sword? 0. Diluc's strength seemed to have been significantly improved. How could he be so far behind Diluc, who also used a big sword? Thinking of this, Eula also felt a trace of unwillingness in her heart. With a fierce heart, she slashed at the surrounding Lawrence family members. A carnage spreads indoors. The Abyss Apostle obviously did not expect that Diluc would be so violent, but he was not afraid and was only responsible for protecting the space passage. No matter how powerful the opponent is, he is just a human being. As long as he is a human being, he will eventually feel tired. And behind him, there is an endless stream of Abyss cult. Not many people knew about the killings in the Lawrence family, but Mond was plunged into chaos. The Wind Demon Dragon attacked the city, but was stopped by Barbatos, who had not appeared for a long time. This was originally a joyful thing, with the appearance of Lord Barbatos and the mere Wind Demon Dragon, but soon, the residents of Mondstadt found that they seemed to be happy too early. A large number of monsters were gathered at some point and attacked Mondstadt. As the acting leader of the Westwind Knights, Qin led Amber, Kaya, Lisa, and other Westwind Knights to face these monsters. This time, not only the Knights of the Westwind were dispatched, but the Church of the Westwind also dispatched a large number of personnel. Moreover, a large number of Eye of God holders in Mondstadt City also joined the battlefield. At this time, they are all protecting their homes. If they do nothing and the monsters invade the city, the entire Mondstadt will be in ruins. Noel, Fisher, Diona, Rosalia, Sugar, and Bennett also stood up one after another. Of course, the most depressing ones are the members of the Fools. They have all joined the battlefield. There is no other way. The lady is right at the city gate. If the monster breaks through the city gate, if the lady's stone statue is damaged, doesn't it mean she's going to die? Please give me flowers, please give me monthly tickets, please give me automatic subscriptions, I love you so much. Righteous. Chapter 75. Mu Yang stood on the city wall and silently broadcast the battlefield on Mondstadt's side, allowing everyone to react in the shortest possible time. Keqing, I didn't expect that the Wind Demon Dragon would be so powerful. Even if the Wind God appears, it can only stop the opponent. Ning Guang, after all, he is a member of the Wind God, so the Wind God shouldn't be too harsh on him, right? What I care more about is the strength of Captain Qin. Her strength is already far ahead of ours. Keqing, it seems that we also need to work harder to become stronger. Ganyu, Captain Qin's strength is no less than that of some immortals. Masters Tianquanxing and Yu Hengxing, you don't need to belittle yourselves. I may not be Leader Qin's opponent. Keqing, even Ganyu, you may not be the opponent of Captain Qin. This time, Keqing was also shocked. She could clearly feel that Qin was already stronger than herself, which made Keqing very helpless. Obviously he joined the chat group earlier, but Qin came from behind. Keqing is naturally unwilling in her heart. But there was nothing she could do. Liu didn't have as many monsters as Mondstadt, and their Qunyan army was more powerful than the West Wind Knights. The number of monsters that Keqing can kill is naturally much less than that of Qin. Moreover, during this period of time, Keqing did not have time to eliminate monsters, but Keqing was still somewhat unwilling to do so. Ganyu, actually, my strength is not strong. Not as good as other immortals. Mu Yang, I don't believe it. Ganyu, you killed a powerful monster at a very young age. Ganyu. How did you know? Ganyu was nervous. Could it be that he choked the monster to death? Mu Yang probably doesn't know Liu Yunjifeng Zhenjun. Could it be Grandma Ping? But Grandma Ping wouldn't say these things. Keqing, Ganyu was able to kill powerful monsters at a very young age? As expected of Ganyu. It seems that Ganyu is the one who hides his secrets. Mu Yang, Ganyu is actually very powerful, but he just doesn't like fighting very much. However, Qin and Ganyu's strength should still be 37 Kai with some differences. Keqing, that Qin is also very powerful. After all, Ganyu is a semi-immortal beast and can be regarded as an immortal. It is said that he also participated in the original Demon War and made great contributions to the establishment of Liu. Ningguang, Mr. Mu Yang, aren't you going to take action? If this continues, Mondstadt may be in danger. Mu Yang, now is not the time. The real big guy hasn't come out yet. Moreover, at this time, the Mondstadt people must protect Mondstadt themselves. Mondstadt needs to wake up too. As for those Zephyr Knights who like to hang out in bars during working hours, to be honest, in my opinion, they are not qualified to be Zephyr Knights. This can be regarded as a wave of screening in disguise. Although considerable losses may occur during this period. Zhongli, indeed, it would be irresponsible for the West Wind Knight to go drinking during working hours. Mondstadt needs an awakening, just like the old Mondstadt was overthrown under the leadership of Vanessa. Wendy, hey, as expected of the old man, Mondstadt needs a new wind. Although this may cause Mondstadt pain, for Mont, this is not a bad thing. Ningguang, however, I didn't expect that the fighting power of the fools was beyond imagination. Moreover, Mondstadt actually had so many fools, more than 100 people. This strength is probably no weaker than the West Wind Knights under Ling Keqing. After all, the main force of the West Wind Knights has gone on an expedition, and Qin has not yet rebuilt the West Wind Knights. However, Mu Yang sealed the lady at the gate of Mondstadt, so that the fools had to participate in the battle, which protected Mondstadt in disguise. Mu Yang, let us welcome the enthusiastic citizen lady to protect Mondstadt once again. Ningguang, are you sure you didn't do this on purpose? Is this also part of your plan? Mu Yang, no, this is just a coincidence. After all, the lady came to me on her own initiative. If she didn't come to me, I wouldn't seal her. But if the lady knew that Barbatos appeared, but she couldn't do anything, and the fools helped Mondstadt, she would probably go crazy, right? While Mu Yang was watching the show silently, Qin also showed amazing strength. Even those in the Knights of the West Wind who had a good relationship with Qin were shocked when they saw Qin killing the monsters in the middle of nowhere. Especially Kaya, before he thought that even if Qin was stronger than him, she wouldn't be much stronger. After all, he is only slightly inferior to Dailuk. Among Mondstadt, Kaya is definitely the best. But he didn't expect that Qin's strength would be so much stronger than his own. How did she improve her strength? Kaya believed that the current Qin, even if he and Dailuk were combined, would probably not be Qin's opponent. Poor brother Kaiza didn't know that the current Oil Luke was no longer the original Dailuk. Standing in the distance, Kong looked at the scene of dense monsters attacking the city, but he couldn't be happy. There are a lot of these monsters, but he also knows that once Barbatos wears the crown, no matter how many monsters there are, they are just one move for Barbatos. Moreover, Looking at the situation in Mondstadt, it seems that they can stop the attacks of these monsters. Is there still no movement in Mondstadt city? Kong frowned slightly and asked in a cold tone. At the same time, his self-reflection was also vaguely looking at Ying, who was trying to get closer to Teyvat's back. He said he didn't care, but when he saw Ying, how could Sora really not care? It was really too risky. His strength had not yet recovered, but with his current strength, it would be very difficult to defeat an apostle of the abyss. But you are so brave that you actually participated in the battle between Barbatos and Teyvat. Is this something you can participate in now? Moreover, there is no point in participating in such a battle. Could it be that my sister was so passionate that she directly participated in it? Yuanxia and the others seem to be in trouble. Mon seems to have known for a long time that the Lawrence family would betray them. An ambush was set up there. Mage Abyss said cautiously. Sure enough, the people of the Lawrence family are trash. Kong snorted lightly. However, our goal is not Mondstadt city but Barbatos, and now we need to put Barbatos into a bitter battle. Now he must use more divine power. Summon more monsters. The Abyss Master cautiously reminded, if we want to open the space gate, we will inevitably extract a large amount of earth energy, which may awaken the law of heaven. By then, our plan may fall short, and may even put Her Royal Highness in crisis. Kong Venian also looked at the location of Sky Island in the sky. Ordinary people can't see the island in the sky, but Kong can do it. Although Kong has his own arrogance, Master Abyss is right. Even he doesn't want to provoke Tian Li now. He was just the maintainer of heavenly principles, but he had suppressed himself and Yingda from the beginning. What about Sora? Now is not the time. Even if it's just for S**x. After pondering for a moment, Kong said coldly to the Abyss Mage, then summon some big guys over, the kind of monsters that won't cause huge changes, but that ordinary gods can't solve. Yes. The Abyss Mage understood instantly. He already understood what His Highness wanted him to summon. Boom, boom. At this moment, a violent explosion rose among the monsters outside Mondstadt. Almost instantly, a large number of monsters died in the explosion. Sure enough, Mondstadt is already ready. Summon some big guys to come in. Seeing this scene, Sora's face darkened. If this continues, the plan to destroy Mondstadt is doomed to fail, and by then it will even be a question of whether to contaminate Barbatos. Yes. Master Abyss agreed quickly. Keqing, it's really shocking. Is this the ability of Mondstadt's first combat force? Qin, Kelly's bomb talent was passed down from Ms. Alice. If she doesn't teach her well, she may cause huge disasters. However, these bombs are specially made by Kelly, and some of Albedo's alchemy skills are added to them, so that these bombs can be detonated according to our needs. Even the shape is not the one that Kelly usually uses. Instead, it looks like Albedo's creation. In this way, Kelly's suspicion will be eliminated a lot. Mu Yang, good guy, just let Albedo block the gun, but there is no problem. After all, Albedo is coming to Laya soon. Even if the Abyss religion wants to retaliate, it can't take revenge. Ning Guang, 1.1 That's understandable, but are Kelly's bombs for sale? Qin, the bombs made by Kelly's current bomb technology cannot be stored for a long time like Miss Alice. Keqing, Qin, can you rent Kelly to us for a period of time? We in Liu need to rebuild Gailaiwan and build roads. During this period, we need to blow up a lot of hills, and we need Kelly's help. We in Liu are willing to offer chips that satisfy you. After this matter is over, you will be in great need of supplies in Mondstadt, right? Qin, well, let's talk about it in detail after this matter is over. Qin said that she was moved, and even though she let Kelly earn extra money, she felt a little unjust in her conscience. But if Kelly ran to Liu, she would be very happy, right? Then she could legally blow up the mountain. The only thing to worry about is that Kelly's bomb is too powerful and will cause huge losses to Liu. Liu and Mond may even turn against each other because of this. Wendy, hey, can you stop chatting now? I can sense that the power of the Earth's veins is being extracted, and the space channel is about to be opened. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.